Going to bring our work session to order. Today is Thursday, March 23rd, and the first thing on the agenda is our utilities rate study. Barry?
Good morning, Commissioners. We have three pretty big topics today, and plus an agenda review. So I'm going to kick it off with Megan Ross, our Director of Utilities, and she's going to bring up a team and talk about our utilities rate study.
Yes, thanks, Barry, and good morning, Commissioners. Megan Ross, Pinellas County Utilities Director, and today we're presenting an overview of the utilities multi-year rate study for fiscal years 2024 through 2027. Our objective today is to seek your feedback and hopefully consensus on a proposed rate option plan for implementation. As you may know, the current rate plan covered fiscal years 20 to 23, and we're looking to adopt a new rate plan to go into effect this October and last through 2027. So to assist with this task, we have Stantec here, a highly reputable consulting firm, to perform the study. And this rate study looked at our structure and compared them to regional and industry benchmarks. As I mentioned in the February work session, the master plans that we've done aim to identify and prioritize those capital improvement needs of our entire system. And as you know, it's essential to ensure adequate funding to support our critical utilities improvement initiatives while providing the highest levels of service, quality, and value to our residents. So periodically evaluating our utilities rates ensures that they align with our operational costs and our long-term improvement needs. So throughout this presentation, we'll be presenting three rate options for water and sewer, and these will meet the current and future capital planning needs. These options include both a pay-as-you-go option as well as different financing strategies to consider. So after the consensus from today's meeting, the next steps we'll begin the process of notifying customers of a public hearing regarding the proposed rate plan, which will be scheduled for June 13th. So, and before I move on to introducing Andy here, I wanted to note that on your desk, we provided some information about utilities. On the one hand, we have our utility strategic plan, which outlines some of our key initiatives and projects. And then in that folder packet, you also have information regarding the Tampa Bay WaterWise program, which is a rebate program for our water customers that they can take advantage of to get some low-flow fixtures and toilets into their homes. We also have our private sewer lateral rebate program information in your packet as well. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Andrew Burnham. He's the Vice President of Management and Technology Consulting with Stantec, who will be presenting the results of our utilities rate study. Andrew has extensive experience in this field and has worked with a range of clients, including municipalities and utilities located within our region. So take it away, Andrew.
Thanks, Megan. Good morning, Commissioners. Andy Burnham with Stantec. I'd like to go through a brief presentation and overview of the utility rate study, and then, of course, make myself available for any questions and assist in any discussion at the conclusion of that. So just by way of an overview, the county, like many municipalities, both counties and cities in Florida, has set up enterprise funds for its water and sewer utilities. And the intent of doing that is to have rates cover the cost of those enterprises. So they run much like a business where they need to charge for the services to cover the cost of operating those businesses, as well as reinvesting in the infrastructure needs, which for water and sewer utilities, infrastructure represents a significant component of the cost requirements for those utility services. A significant amount of underground infrastructure is really out of sight, out of mind for our citizens, both residents and business owners alike, but that's a high priority for the county, and it's going through a continuous evaluation process, your staff, of evaluating what we need for infrastructure to maintain that current level of service that Megan mentioned. And so as part of having enterprise funds and evaluating your capital needs, you also perform periodic financial management studies, such as rate studies, to make sure that you're generating adequate revenue from your rates and your resources to cover your current as well as near-term operating and capital cost requirements. And this proactive financial management, rate management, is very essential and critical, and it's positively viewed by the rating agencies who evaluate the financial health of your utility systems, which is important when you look to the bond markets to issue debt to pay for some of that infrastructure so you can get the lowest interest rates possible as part of those borrowings. So what we'd like to go over today is just really a summary of the rate study and breaking it down into a few discrete components. The first being what we're seeing when we look at the adequacy of the revenue provided by your current rates to meet your current and near-term cost requirements over that 4-year time period that Megan mentioned. And then as we do that, we want to shift the conversation a little bit to what we saw when we looked at some of your costs specifically in terms of how they might break out between services, but also between the different components of your rate structure in terms of fixed versus variable charges. And as we work into that conversation, we want to make sure we have a very good understanding of the bill impacts that would result from any modifications, both to the level of rates and to the rate structure that may be considered by the commissioners. So with that, as we embarked upon this study and looked at the adequacy of the revenues provided by the current rates, we noticed a few key funding drivers. And as I mentioned, the capital improvement program is a significant component of the study. In the past four-year rate plan, we made some notable progress on our infrastructure improvements, and some of those pictures are included here on this slide, whether it was a parallel force main or at the top left, a picture of grit removal and upgrade improvements at the water reclamation facilities, or improvements at some of our booster stations, the large photo at the bottom that addressed aging infrastructure, but also resiliency and even elevated some of the pumps to make the facilities more resilient. We've made some good progress, but as you've heard from the workshop in February in the master plans, there's additional infrastructure needs that we need to cover over the next four-year time period as well. In addition, I think many of us are aware of just acute inflation costs, and there's a couple in particular that have been impacting the utility. Electricity cost, which is associated with both storm recovery costs from Nicole and Ian, but also with the rising cost of natural gas, which is a big part of the power supply portfolio for electric providers here in the area. But then also chemical cost increases. Here we saw about a 100% increase in just the cost of chlorine. Other communities have seen even higher multipliers on other chemicals as part of the process. So, and those two components, electricity and chemicals, are a big part of our operating expenses for these utility systems. And lastly, we just want to be mindful of the future of Tampa Bay water cost. And in that regard, we've had annual escalators on the cost of the water itself, but we do also have to be mindful that our acquisition credit for the sale of our well fields to Tampa Bay Water expires in 2028. So starting in 2029, we'll have about a $4.4 million effective increase to our expense as that credit goes away. So we need to keep these funding drivers in mind as we start looking at the future picture of, can our current rates cover our long-term cost? And so as we started that process, for the water system, we really wanted to look at what are our current resources and the projections of those over time. So if you look at our current revenue stream, we're about $100 million a year in revenues from rates and other miscellaneous charges. And as a mature community with no increases, that revenue stays pretty flat over the forecast period. But as we look at the increases in operating costs that we're seeing, and more importantly, the integration of the master plan improvements for the infrastructure needs for the system, you can see that the total expenditures, or the light blue bar on the right-hand side, exceeds our revenues right away, but also by an increasing gap over time, such that by the time we get to 2027, we've got about a $25 million gap in between our total cash coming into the system and the total cash coming out of the system that we would need to have. And what that would mean is that red dash line represents your end-of-year fund balance or reserves. And so when the cash out exceeds the cash coming into the system, we're drawing down those reserves over time, such that when we start this analysis, we have about $110 million for the water fund. By 2027, that would be down to, in round numbers, about $10 million. And if we played this 1 year forward, the fund balance would in fact actually go negative based upon the information that we have. And so with this finding, we then started to explore options. And as Megan mentioned, the options that we looked at really revolved around how do we pay for the capital improvement needs for the water system. And so we looked at three options. The first was a continuation of past practices where we pay for all of our capital needs through revenues from existing rates or revenues that we've put aside into fund balance and appropriated for those future capital needs. And so in that scenario, there would be no additional borrowing issued for this capital improvement program, and we would then have rate increases needed to support that. Commissioner Akers, yes, sir.
Before you get into that, back to that previous slide, the cash in, cash out, does that include capital?
It does include capital.
So we are, even though our reserves are dwindling in that scenario that you're talking about, we are covering our capital in that process as well.
That's correct. Yeah. But then if we played it forward one more year to 2028.
I get it. I just want to make sure that's not just operating.
Correct. It's total expenditures. Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And so as we look at going forward for the future capital improvement program, continuing to pay for those with our resources, cash resources, would require we increase our revenue streams to support that higher level of capital expenses. And that would mean a 6.5% increase over the next 4 years. And then our projection models go out beyond that. And so it shows a continuation of that level of increase beyond that. But those would be updated as part of future studies similar to this at the appropriate time. But we then looked at other options that include the same capital improvement costs, but different ways of paying for them. So we looked at a partial debt financing option, looking at some of the projects in the capital improvement program, notably significant underground line replacements that have longer useful lives. We looked at an approach where we would fund about $100 million of capital cost with borrowing, which would mean that we would be able to leverage that debt financing and pay that back over a 30-year term. So we would have lower increases in the near term, but they would likely have to continue longer because we're now paying principal and interest for those over time. So it's a balance of near-term versus longer-term affordability in consideration of how we pay for our infrastructure investments that last multiple years. In this option, the increases would be lower. They'd be at 5% per year to cover that $100 million of additional borrowing that would be issued in 24 to 32, and that represents about 25% of the capital improvements program that we have during that time period. The third option, option C, we termed as debt capacity, which really takes us to one of the points that the rating agencies look at is a balanced mix of cash versus debt financing for capital, and we don't want to get too debt heavy, and so this would be about 50% of your capital improvement program being funded with cash and 50% with debt. Rating agencies have their scorecards with a significant degree of transparency about how they look at cash funding versus debt funding for multi-year capital improvement programs, and that 50% is one of the benchmarks that they look at. And if we start going above that, that again will start, potentially coming into play as far as a rating process goes for the water system. But in that option, we would then be able to have increases that would be at 3.5% per year associated with that $200 million of our capital improvement program being debt financed. But again, historically, the water system has been 100% cash funding of its capital, but obviously we've seen a significant increase in our infrastructure needs for the water system that I think it's appropriate to consider different ways of paying for that as we move forward. For the sewer system, we did a similar analysis of current resources provided by our existing rates, fees, and charges against our total expenditure requirements, again, inclusive of operating as well as capital cost. And you can see for the first 3 years, from 23 to 25, we're pretty well in alignment, where our total cash resources coming in are matching our resources going out. But it's the last couple of years of the forecast period where we again have increases in our capital improvement expenditures, where we start to see a gap emerge between our total revenues coming into the system and those total expenditures going out, to where we'd start to use down that red line, again, that fund balance from about $60 million down to about $30 million by 2027. So it's definitely not the exact same outlook as water, but certainly a bit similar in regards to that longer-term structural deficit we see on total revenues versus total expenses. So we developed 3 options for the sewer system that are very similar to the water, but they are cognizant of the fact that we do have for the sewer system outstanding debt today of about $92 million outstanding. So the first option would look at paying for the capital needs 100% with cash, and that would require a 6% increase over the next few years. Then after that, we would show our projections that could drop to about 4% per year. In a partial debt option, that would cover a component of the capital improvement program, about $60 million. That would be about 4% annual increases. But again, keep in mind, we also have the $92 million of debt outstanding already. And then the debt capacity option would be another $180 million of additional borrowing that again would be repaid over a 30-year term, and that would allow us to have 2% annual increases in that option. Now, as we looked at these different options, we did also want to take a look at the rate structure, and we did identify a couple of potential modifications that could mitigate the impact of the increases in any of these options, in particular on your low volume and average users. The 2 specific recommendations we have are to address revenue stability in terms of how much revenue you capture in your fixed monthly service charges. You get about 15% of your revenue from those, and your current fees are about half the local average. We want to progressively increase those modestly to increase that revenue recovery to about 20% is the recommendation. But in tandem with that, we are recommending that you consider a 2-tier rate structure for your volumetric charges. So today, you charge a single rate, $5.13, for all metered water use. But what we want to do is for residential customers, single family and multifamily, look at a tiered approach where the first 4,000 gallons per unit would be priced at a lower rate, reflecting the fact that those indoor usages are pretty steady throughout the year, and they're not really contributing to the need to have additional capacity to meet seasonal demands that happen from higher volume uses, largely associated with outdoor use like irrigation. And then for any water use above 4,000 gallons, a higher rate would apply. And that would again be consistent with conservation pricing for those higher volume uses, cost of service to capture those peaking costs, and as a result, it means the rate for that first tier is actually a little bit lower, which would enhance affordability. So we think there are some positive attributes of this type of a rate structure. And as part of this process, we evaluated what would be those bill impacts of making these changes. And so for purposes of demonstration, if you assume option B, the 5% increases, we took a look at your detailed billing data to identify with your residential customers how much water use do we have and how many bills are issued at kind of key demarcation points, say for a low volume use of 2,000 gallons per month, a typical use at 5,000 gallons, and then maybe for a higher volume use at 10,000 gallons. And so if we look at the 2,000 gallon bill, that may be a 1 or 2 person household, not doing necessarily any outdoor water use or a significant amount of it, and their bill would actually reduce under option B by about $1.35. In that first year, we implement these rate structure changes. And then thereafter, the future increases of the plan would apply and result in about a $1.50 increase on that bill over time, each year. And that represents about 27% of our bills in that first kind of low volume increment. Between 2,000 gallons and 5,000 gallons, we've got another 43% of our bills between that. It's a very big chunk of our customer base. And that bill would actually see a very modest reduction at 5,000 gallons, and in between there at 3,000 and 4,000 gallons, it would actually be a larger reduction beyond that. And so in then future years, that increase at 5,000 gallons, which is your typical bill, would be about $2 based upon option B. So 70% of your bills are issued, you can add up the 27% and the 43, 70% of your bills are issued for 5,000 gallons or less, and they would see a decrease in 2024 with these modifications. And then for higher volume uses, we look between 5,000 and 10,000 gallons, that represents another 20% of your customers, and their bill would increase, but that's assuming the same amount of usage. Again, the intent with this type of a structure is that they're now gonna see a price incentive to conserve, and with modest changes, if they were able to just conserve 1,000 gallons from that 10,000 gallon bill, they could almost avoid that increase in its entirety. And so that's really the intent, and then going forward, that bill would increase by about $3 under option B. And so we went through and modeled these rate structure impacts, so you could see this with the sewer bill for all 3 options. So option A is the cash financing option with 6.5% increase for water, 6% for sewer, and the rate structure changes. And this is your typical residential or retail bill at 5,000 gallons. So in 2023, the last year of the current rate plan that's been approved, that bill went up about $4.80 or 5.8%. Under this option A, it would go up about $3.33 or 3.8%, and then future increases would be right around $6 or about 6.4% in each subsequent year. Under option B, if we did 5% for water, 4% for sewer, and partial debt financing for our capital plan, the increase for 24 would be less than $2 or about 2%, and then future year increases would be a little over $4 or about 4.7% on that typical bill, so less than what the past rate plan was. And then under option C, again, assuming this is applied for both water and sewer, we would see that in 24 the bill would be about flat, about 27-cent increase or 0.3%, and then future year increases would be a little bit less than $3 or less than 3% in each of those subsequent years. Yes, sir.
If you go back to the slide on option A, the 23 and 24 pricing is the same, am I? Or the water bill? Okay, the water bill it is, but sewer bills.
Yep.
Okay.
So for the water bill, the reason that stays the same in 24 is because of the rate structure modifications that we're recommending. So if we didn't have those, it would be an increase.
Okay, great, thanks.
And so as we think about the options, I think it's also important to have a bit of context in terms of other agencies in the county or in neighboring counties in terms of what their utility bills look like and how they compare to ours. And so we did a bit of benchmarking to say at 5,000 gallons, that typical water and sewer bill, how does our current bill compare to the current bills of these other agencies? And then we modeled option B, kind of the middle option, to show how that would change. And whether it's option A, B, or C, you really won't change your position in the survey. And it's important to note that under option A, B, or C, or B that's shown here, that's your 2024 rates. Many of these agencies will be having increases in their utility rates to deal with similar infrastructure and inflation pressures that they're seeing as we move into next year. In fact, some have already approved multi-year ordinances. Like Tampa has a 20-year rate ordinance approved that will go up about 6% per year. Port Richey's doing a rate study now. Newport Richey has a 4% annual plan. Pasco County goes up by about 3.5% each year. Clearwater has a multi-year plan approved of 3.5%, but that's being reviewed right now. St. Pete goes up each year, does annual rate studies, and that affects Gulfport and St. Pete Beach. Dunedin has a 5 to 6% increase approved, multi-year. Hillsborough, same thing, 4% a year increase. You kind of get the point that we're generally seeing upward pressure on utility rates in that 4 to 6% a year range. So just keep that in mind that if we were to update this next year, a lot of those bars that aren't yours would be even higher and shift to the right as you're looking at the screen. And the last item I wanted to talk about before we recap is just on reclaimed water. So about 15% of your customers receive reclaimed water. That's primarily used for outdoor irrigation purposes. And the costs of the reclaimed water system are within your sewer enterprise fund. And so as part of this analysis, we've identified that annually it's about $22 million of cost for reclaimed water operating in capital. And between our retail and wholesale rates, we get about $8 million of revenue. So we're at about 35% cost recovery. And it's very common for utilities within Florida and even nationally to have partial cost recovery on the reclaimed water system, given the benefits it provides to the potable water system because we don't have to purchase potable water for these irrigation demands. And similar because it provides a benefit on the wastewater treatment side because we can now have a method of disposing of our treated effluent from the water reclamation process. And so, but that being said, we do have two recommendations here. One would be to modestly increase the rates, the service charges by $1 to enhance the cost recovery. We're at 35% today. That would take us to maybe 40 or 45% based on the data we have now. And the second is that whereas we go through the metering program for reclaimed water, to implement a rate structure that's consistent with how that could be applied to users in terms of providing an incentive to conserve when they use more than reasonable usage. And so what's recommended is a rate structure that has a base charge that includes an allowance of monthly use, initially at 20,000 gallons, but then being phased down to 15,000 gallons, which is more than enough for a typical residential lot a quarter-acre lot to irrigate St. Augustine grass and other appropriate plants 2 times a week. And so we would gradually phase that allowance down and have a usage rate that would apply for any metered water use above that allowance. And so thereby providing a conservation to higher volume users to conserve. And so this table shows just a summary of your reclaimed water customers by type, but that third row down that's in bold, the customers that are on distribution lines that were funded by the county and that are presently unmetered is 95% of your customer base. So this is the area we're really focusing on in this conversation. And so the idea would be to take that current service charge and increase it, as I mentioned, $1 for each of the years to gradually enhance the cost recovery. But then also, as we start metering some of these customers, to then have that 2-part rate structure apply with a fixed fee that includes an allowance and a usage rate above that. And so if we model that, the bottom row at 15,000 gallons, you can see that customer, they stay within the allowance. Their bill increase is only $1 each year, consistent with that cost recovery objective. But if a customer were to use, say, 20,000 gallons, the second row from the bottom, you can see their bill increase would be larger. And they're going to be receiving now a price incentive for conservation as that allowance is phased out over time, or phased down to 15,000 gallons, I should say. So that's it. I know we went through a lot. We have developed a few different options for you to consider that pay for your infrastructure improvement needs, as have been identified through your recent studies and endeavors and planning for both water and sewer that revolve around how you choose to pay for that infrastructure. And then we also, for reclaimed water, have a couple specific recommendations to enhance your cost recovery, but then put in a rate structure that's conducive to the metering that's happening and providing customers a reasonable allowance for use for a typical irrigation purposes, but then providing a usage rate to encourage conservation for uses above that amount. So from this point forward, I think there's obviously some administrative steps that we'd get into as well as part of the conversation, but I think now is a good time to perhaps open the floor for additional questions and discussion.
Questions? Commissioner Latvala?
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the $92 million that's currently in sewer debt, when was that initiated and when is it due?
So the debt goes back, it's been refinanced a few times. I think Linda Benoit can answer this more specifically, but we'll have some of it be paid off. The last payments are in 2028, and then I think another tranche gets paid off in 2031, 2032 time period. So the payoff on that is relatively short, which is helpful when we look at potentially issuing new debt because we can layer that in around the payoff of that existing debt. So thank you, Linda.
Good morning. Linda Benoit, Financial Services Director for Utilities. The sewer debt initiated back in the 90s, and most of it was used to actually put the reclaimed water pipes into the ground. That was the biggest use of the debt. Some of it gets paid off in 24, some of it in 27, some in 28, some in 31, and some in 32. Okay, so our current debt will be all paid off by 2032.
You have a follow-up, Commissioner? Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, thank you for the report. So I was getting into that layering that you talked about, or you're talking about the debt we have in sewer. Any additional debt would be layered on top of that. So I was just trying to get a sense of back to my original question, how much debt is in the regular flow of the funds each year? What are we covering? And what is this additional debt going to cover? And do we anticipate additional layering after this for more debt? Or is this 95 going to be able to get what we need done along with that annual debt that we're doing? So I'm just trying to have a better feel for that.
Yeah, so and I'll go back to the water system first, Commissioner Eggers, the 95 million is the amount of additional borrowing that we would use for a portion of the capital that we have from 24 to 32. So our model is a 10-year forecasting model. And so during that time period, that 95 million, we're showing potentially borrowing for that maybe in fiscal 26. And for the water system, we don't have any outstanding debt. So the 95 million would be all new, and a lot of that would be associated with some of the major underground improvements in those projects.
And Commissioner, I think your question was, is that the only debt that would be forecast? And so that's the only debt that we forecast for that 10-year period
For the utility, yes, sir. Yeah.
for the utility.
Okay, so maybe we could just have somebody just briefly speak to what the debt, the ongoing pay-as-you-go debt that we have in the numbers, and what we're hoping to accomplish in that 10-year period in our capital system. Because the story to tell our residents is, if we're going to raise their rates, what are they getting out of it? And so I'd like to be able to verbalize with 5 bullet points what we're getting out of that.
Yeah.
That commitment in the next 10 years on the operating side, but also this $95 million infusion.
So talk about the capital plan.
A lot of this is going to cover our capital plan, as we discussed, and specifically on the water side. If you recall the master plan initiatives in that presentation last month, the water side is a lot of it is the actual distribution system, the pipes in the ground. Okay, we still have a lot of old pipes, metallic pipes, galvanized pipes that need to be replaced to continue service reliability, as well as meet some of the resiliency initiatives by upgrading those materials. And then on the sewer side, it's about a 60-40 split between 60% is our collection system, addressing the SSOs, addressing the sewer pipes, the force mains. As you saw in that initial picture, we built out a huge force main, one of our main force mains that was coming to its end of useful life, where it could collapse at any minute. So we built a new force main to prevent a major, catastrophic issue occurring there. So we have more of those that we need to do on the sewer side, on the collection system. Additionally, on the treatment side, for the wastewater plants themselves, to ensure we have adequate treatment, we've got to upgrade some of those operational components to make sure that the water is being properly cleaned, disinfected, treated, so that it can be utilized either as reclaimed water, but meet those permit requirements. So we're working really hard to make sure that our infrastructure is, adequately maintained and upgraded, asset renewal and replacement. But we can provide that in a consolidated, bulleted fashion, some of those main points. I'd be happy to do that.
All right, thank you for now.
Commissioner Peters?
Thank you. I have several questions, so if you'll indulge me. So on that one, that we're looking at $59 million in debt for the sewer system, but we also know that we have legislation, another unfunded mandate, that says that we cannot dispose of our wastewater into the bay. Right. So we don't have a plan for that yet, correct?
That's correct. So we have a plan to develop a plan. We're going through feasibility right now on different options. That's that Senate Bill 64, right. Surface water discharge elimination. We are working hard to develop feasibility, looking at, getting people to better utilize reclaimed water on some of those accounts that are inactive and they're hooked up but they're not using. That's not going to solve the problem entirely, but that can solve part of the problem. The other options we're looking at, aquifer recharge and deep well injection. We're also working with Tampa Bay Water on some of those things to see if they can incorporate that into their water supply master plan, creating salinity barriers through that aquifer recharge project. So again, this relates specifically to our South Cross Bayou facility. Our Dunn facility is 100% reuse. We don't have surface water discharge up there, but we do have in our South Cross Bayou facility that 9 million gallons per day annual average out of that facility. Now again, that's an annual average, so It can be as low as 1 million gallons a day in the dry season, and then in the wet season, it could be 30 million gallons a day. So it's not as easy as just having that consistent million gallon per day average. It can vary seasonally. So that's when storage and those recharge options, could really help us with managing that flow.
Okay, so I guess my point is, we need to expect that either we're going to get more
Yes.
debt after that legislation comes through, because this debt that we're going to incur doesn't necessarily address some of that, correct?
There is a placeholder for a potential project, but to your point, since we don't have an option, that number could go up. So we don't know what that project is yet, and that could change and fluctuate. And yes, that may impact us financially on what we're going to do. So we'll have to figure that out at that time when we get to that point in time. But yes, though, that is an unknown that is still out there.
Okay, and then, so I want to shift it, and this is going to be kind of on base but off base a little bit. So I provided everybody some information on your desks about retrofitting, but this is more kind of a policy. But my other question is, because it's a little off base, but it's perfect timing, right? So you talked about the WaterWise program, and so my question is, if we're looking to raise the rates, I assume in this marketing plan, you have a marketing plan on how you're going to let people know about how they can get rebates and save water.
Absolutely, and that plan is already underway. So Tampa Bay Water, we work closely with Tampa Bay Water on marketing this program, and to the extent that we have a whole water conservation team that is out there. We have the flyers here in your packet. When you actually go to Home Depot or Lowe's to buy a toilet, there's a sticker on the toilet, Tampa Bay WaterWise rebate available. So that marketing plan is already implemented, and it's being tracked.
Right. Now, do we provide that information to anybody that gets a permit when they're remodeling?
I believe that is available to our building department to distribute that information.
Okay.
They could probably
Yeah.
speak a little bit more to that, but we put it on our bills, on oncerts, and we're continuously going out there, making sure people are aware of the program.
So I just want to, on this packet that I gave you guys, and it's a little off base because I really want this to be a building department issue
Okay.
and an affordable housing issue, but it plays into this so critically important. So Tampa Bay Water projects that we'll be having water shortages around 2035, right, Dave?
Well, if we don't get another water supply source.
If we don't, right. So water is, we haven't been talking about water supply issues so much in Pinellas County. Hillsborough County's talking about them all the time because they can't get enough water pressure. There isn't really enough water getting down there. There are water wars going on in Florida now among municipalities and counties in other areas of the state that don't have a Tampa Bay water. And if we don't really get into the conservation act right now, we're really going to have an issue long term, and not only are rates going to keep rising, but we will have water pressure issues and supply issues. And so something like this, and if you take a look at, if you don't mind indulging me, if you take a look at page 2 where they did a retrofit, and my point is, what I really want is every affordable housing unit that we mandate that they use these WaterWise policies, is what I'm looking for. And so to get the impact, this is just an impact of a retrofit. Now, if you start from the beginning, they're never going to use this kind of water to begin with. But on page 2, you'll see their average water use was, 12,000 gallons a month. And once they did the retrofit, they saved 988 gallons a month. Now, when you play out the cost to each person that lives there, it can be up to $50 a month. So any affordable housing that we approve should mandate that they have lower utility bills by them having these water things. And and if you go to page 4, that unit actually saved 1,985,000 gallons a month just by using these these are huge numbers. And on page 6, you'll see how that unit on this retrofit saved 615,000 gallons a month. And so these are huge savings to whoever lives there. And when you talk about to afford to live here, it's not affordable to live here. Well, we're going to raise our utility rates. I have no doubt we're going to raise our rates. But if we do something to mandate that especially on affordable housing, because if they're using our money, I think we can mandate that they use these Star Energy appliances, and that they, must use that water-friendly landscape, and they must use the irrigation that soaks the grass instead of, evaporates everywhere. And I just think that that is a policy across the board we should have for any affordable housing or anything that we put our money into. And I don't care if it costs, they're going to get a rebate back, so it's really not even going to cost the builder anymore. And so that isn't an argument for me. And whoever is maintaining that building is going to save money on the hundreds of thousands of gallons that they're going to not use. And so your timing is perfect, but if we do something like this, then I feel much more comfortable about the rate increase, because if we really do something to promote, and we can get grants to help us retrofit big buildings from Swift Mud and from Tampa Bay Water. And every single person that gets a building permit to do a remodel should get a flyer and encourage them, because a lot of times the developers are, well, they get the permit too, but I just don't know, because the WaterWise report that we got this month, their projections on how much we thought we were going to be successful with that program has not come close. And so I just think we need to do a much better job, and people are going to get very upset when they find out their rates are going to go up, but if there's something they can do, and we really talk about when the rubber hits the road, what does that mean? If it's going to be $50 a month, that's a lot of money. I mean, that adds up over a year to be enough money to say, and if you look at the cost increase, if they were to save $50 a month, that cost increase is nothing. I mean, it's still a decrease. So I'm sorry to get on my soapbox. I was going to do this during new business, but the timing was just perfect. But we can bring this back up at new business, but I really think this is a policy
all
that
right.
should be across the board. And I know we're going to approve some new affordable housing right away.
That's next.
And,
on the
and I
agenda.
just think that's across the board, it must be required. That's my thought. I hope you all agree with me. But if we don't start getting proactive now on saving water, we're going to have much bigger problems in 2030 than you even can imagine.
Okay, hold on a second, please. Before, I totally agree with everything you just said, Commissioner Peters. That was a great 5-minute presentation. Thank you for the information.
Sorry about that.
Before we move on, I would like to ask Jewel, though, if we really want to be proactive, do we need to do some kind of an ordinance to put what Commissioner Peters has just recommended?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been a little focused on trying to get my iPad working here, but we would probably want to look at what she's talking about and go into greater depth as to things and work with staff on what would be necessary.
Okay, so when you say take a look at it, can you hurry up and
Sure,
not come back
absolutely.
3 months from
Absolutely.
now?
Absolutely.
Because, this is important, and especially it's important considering what I'll say after we finish with the rest of the questions. Hold on, Commissioner Eggers, I see you, but Commissioner Flowers is next, and then Commissioner Scott. So let's just write it down so you don't forget.
It's down. I want to comment on some of her comments about
Okay.
Tampa Bay Water, so.
All right, that's fine. Go ahead, Commissioner Flowers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to say thank you to Megan and your team for a wonderful presentation with me. I know I asked a million questions, and you were able to answer those questions for me. I did share with the team what my preference was, because I, like many of you, am cognizant of all of the increases that our residents have experienced, everything from homeowners insurance to automobile insurance, interest rates. I am concerned with what's going on with our economy. You saw what the Feds just did with 1/4 point, and I did share with staff. I was a little concerned about exposure when it came to borrowing money, and how that would impact the county as a whole. So I did share all of those things with staff. Commissioner Peters, right on point. When I was a city council member, we instituted the indoor water conservation kits. We partnered with, then it was Progress Energy, now it's Duke Energy. And they actually created an entire department in the city. And they went door to door and distributed those water conservation kits. In those kits, it was something to retrofit your toilet to help with the flow. If you purchase the low-flow toilet, the only issue sometimes with the low flows is you had to flush twice sometimes instead of once, but not all the time. But that was one of the concerns that we got. Excuse me, it also had a thing for your shower. So you got a whole new shower head that regulated that water and timer for that. So, and again, purchasing appliances, like you said. So that has helped tremendously. And we made those kits free. So I don't know if that's something that you all want to look at and partnering with them on that, but it worked out really well, and a lot of people started really focusing on conservation. So Commissioner Peters, that was a very good segue. The high efficiency toilet retrofit rebate is what they use as well. And then the smart controllers, we talked a lot about reclaimed water because we have so many people who want reclaimed water, but if we expand the system, the issue is whether or not we'll have enough product for those persons to actually get reclaimed water. And then we have the states not really looking favorably upon deep well injection to pull that water back up to make that available. So there was a program, and I think it still exists, where they actually provide them with the rain sensors, I think is what they call them. So that, because we talked about that, I said some people call and complain like it's raining and their water sprinklers are on.
Yep.
So that rain sensor will not allow the sprinkler system to work when it's on, so that then you have the reclaimed product to use. So those were some things that I didn't think about when we were talking.
Okay, yeah.
But when Commissioner Peters passed out this packet, thank you very much, and she gave her comments, I think those comments were right on point. I do support assuring that any affordable housing developments have conservation promotion components within it. We do that with their refrigerators and stoves and things like that. But with all of the different proposed bills that are moving and changing, in the clean water bill that they have up there now, which basically takes away a lot of authority from municipal governments. I don't know if that's going to be something that we'll be able to do, but we'll see. You know, things do change as the weeks go on. But I do want us to be extremely cognizant, as I shared with you guys, of everything that we are doing and how it does overall impact the consumers. We still bill every 2 months.
Correct.
And so, you know, your dollar values were based on monthly. So for some, that would be about 140, because you were at 70 for some. So it may be 2 or 3 or more. I shared with you the tiered rate structure that the city of St. Pete has us on. So I can see every month what my first 15,000 gallons is and everything after that is. So I really think that's a fabulous idea. It helps me to see where the months that I'm using more than in other months. So I really like that, but I just want us to be cognizant of that, because it only seems like a few dollars. $4 may seem like a few dollars, but you know, for some that could be, you know, major for them depending on where they are financially. So that's my spiel.
Well, thank you. And I do want to emphasize our water conservation team does provide some of those materials for water conservation, rain gauges and other items. They're out there in the communities talking to homeowners associations and residents. It's a big education component that we do in addition to enforcement, but the first step is that education piece and providing that information to customers. We are moving towards a monthly bill, and with that metering project that was approved, in the coming years, the next couple years or so, we'll be able to make that change. Bi-monthly billing is a real struggle for a lot of people. It's hard to budget. It's hard for us to manage the revenue. So it's difficult on both ends. So that monthly billing, to your point, will better enable people to budget, and we may even be able to offer a budget billing process where they can pay a flat rate based on past usages, which will help. And the AMI program will also enable those leak detections, high water usage. It'll be able to flag, you know, potential things they can do so they can see, hey, you might have a leaking toilet. You might have some use over here where you can get these rebates installed and lower that usage. So we're really hoping to do that as well. Also just want to touch on a program that we have been utilizing. It is a federal grant program. It's called the Low Income Household Water Assistance Program that was recently passed. I believe it was last year. And that does help some low-income customers pay their water bills. So it's very similar to that. There's an energy one that's been out there for a while. They created a water one. It's got to continue to get funding every year. But that's something that we are using, and we're going to further that program and better communicate that that program exists on our websites and so forth, and through our customer services team.
And the last thing, Madam Chair, was I know when we talked, I don't believe you mentioned it, but we did talk about the need to make sure we're replacing our pipes and whatnot timely, particularly for the plants where there may be an issue of concern should we have a major hurricane or flooding or things of that nature. So, you know, I understand the significance of having to do that because we certainly don't want any of those issues like some other communities in South Florida have had when they've had a major weather occurrence and that sewage spill is on top of everything else.
Yes.
So after I visited the plants and taken my tours, I truly understand the need. I just want us to kind of be cognizant, but I don't want to put the county in deep debt, but I don't want to pass along, so you know the two that I support. So.
Okay.
Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the great presentation and appreciate the one-on-one we had on Monday to kind of go over this and get some questions answered as well. I really like the tiered rate structure. I think that's a great option for folks to potentially not have any increase, and it gives them better options to manage their water usage. I think going to monthly billing is going to be a great thing too when we can get to that point. Just kind of a comment on the options that we have. When we get to that, to maybe our next discussion on this, it would be helpful to see what a debt schedule might look like on these various options, because at the end of the day, if we finance it, we're going to end up paying more because we're going to have to pay the interest on that. So at the end of the day, that cost is going to be passed on to consumers. And you know, as we've kind of talked around the table here, we don't know what, you know, as a business owner, I like to keep powder dry, so to speak, because you never know what's going to come down the road. So, you know, I would certainly favor, you know, as little debt as possible, you know, going forward, just to, you know, make sure that we can be responsive to what the unknown in the future could potentially be. So with that comment, and then what's the typical useful life of the pipes? Like, we're getting ready, we need to replace the freshwater pipes. What's sort of that typical? Is it a 50-year cycle? Is it a?
Yeah, so for some of on the water side, water pipes typically have a longer useful life. Some of the new materials that are used, it's about 75 to 100 years on some of them, depending on the nature of the environment. You know,
Not the ones you're replacing.
No, the ones we're replacing, you know, they're coming up on like a 40, 50-year cycle. They're metallic pipes, so very corrosive. The salt water underground is degrading them, but the new pipes are much longer useful life. The sewer side, it's a little bit, again, with the metallic pipes, I mean, we're like 20, 30 years on some of those metallic pipes, but the newer materials will last much longer, like 50, 60 years. Some of the lining projects that we do, we are saving a lot of money by doing lining, because that cured in place pipe lining takes an existing metal pipe that may be corroded and end of useful life, and you can actually go in and just line that pipe, and that increases the useful life of that pipe by 40 years. I mean, it's almost like it's a new pipe within a pipe. And the costs are significantly less than, you know, opening up the ground and installing a new pipe. You don't have all the traffic impacts, all that other stuff. So lining is a really good option. Doesn't always work in every case. You can't do it with force mains. You can do it with gravity pipes. And if the gravity pipe is so collapsed where it doesn't create like a good structure for the lining, it won't adhere. So there's certain cases though, and a lot of cases we can do lining on some of these pipes, and we are. Yeah.
That's great information to have as we're out talking to residents and say,
Sure.
okay, you know, your utility fees are going to go up X%, but we're putting infrastructure that's going to last for another 75 or 100 years.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
All right, and now back to Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, just to the feedback that you asked, I also would support the tiered rate structure. Obviously, I think it's going to be important from a lot of perspectives. Getting the meters in will help as well. As you know, my wife's hopefully not listening because I brought this example up, but when I got a call from my buddy at the water plant saying, you're using a lot of water in the morning, I said, it's my wife's long shower. And I did, hear about it later, but I was trying to make a point that you can monitor the usage and make adjustments. If there are leaks, it can be on your side, our side of the meter. You don't know. So I'm all for that. Back to the debt question, I do think we have to be mindful. I think that's the balance between affordability for our residents and debt accumulation. So if anything, I'd look at the middle. I wouldn't look at the maximum number, that at least scenario, I guess it was option C. But I did want to speak just briefly on conservation. Clearly, one of the most important things we can do, one of the most valuable assets we have, and you can go to areas of the country that are struggling with that. So to that end, and they're using reclaimed water for potable reuse. We're not doing that here. I don't see that happening for some time. But I did want to make it clear that water is not an issue with Tampa Bay Water. There's plenty of water. We are just approved an expansion of our surface water plant that will give us more than we need through the end of the decade. And we're working already on the next water supply source. And we have gone from probably 300 suggestions. I think we're filtering down to maybe 60. And by the end of the year, we'll be down to 3 or 4 that we'll be looking at over the next 2 to 3 years to start planning for the next one, which will be coming online in 2033 to 2035. So the good news about being part of Tampa Bay Water, you do have multiple water supply sources. So if we do have a drought and we do have an issue with the desal plant, we do have an issue with our river supply system, you have different alternatives. It makes for a little bit more expensive water to have them, but that's part of the beauty of having the Tampa Bay Water system that we have, that we all bought into probably 25 years ago. So there's no water supply issues, there's no problems with that. I don't want people leaving the meeting here, but also people who may be watching thinking that. There are times that we ask for all of the governments to put, let's cut back from two uses a week on reclaim to 1 use a week or something like that. You can monitor that. I really feel good about the relationship between our utility group and Tampa Bay Water. Work extremely closely to make sure that they're hearing our issues and adjusting our issues. So they're getting in the reclaim game. Tampa Bay Water is also kind of looking at that as what do we do with that? What do we do with the extra water that we're creating in South County? We don't have any extra water in North County. I mean, a few years back we talked about a pipeline connecting the two so we could take the excess and send it up to North County so that we could get more people online up there, because they're sitting on the line perhaps, but they're just not accessing the water. So there's other ways. I know those some of the things that you're looking at in your alternative discussions for reclaimed water. But certainly, to your point about conservation, a critical issue. And I'm really excited about the fact that we are out there doing, because I have been a little disappointed. We had estimated in 10 years being up to 10 million gallons a day savings, and I thought it was a reach. And they've ratcheted it back to about 3 million gallons a day. Still a substantial amount. I mean, we're doing something right now to help the South Hillsborough County area that gets them 3 million gallons a day. And it's all that they need, at least for now, to cover that little interim period. So even 3 million gallons a day in the next 10 years is sizable, and it will make a big difference. So anyway, I just wanted to make that comment, and also the input that you're looking from us on the tiered concept. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Eggers. And I'm going to recognize you in just a moment, Barry, but first I wanted to say, in response to a couple of comments that have been made this morning, a couple of years ago at FAC, they had a gentleman from, I forgot what university he was from, who was really focused on our consumption of water in the state of Florida and how little conversation there is around that, and the fact that we continuously have folks moving into the state. Forget about whether they're coming to Tampa Bay or not. I'm talking more on a statewide basis. And he had a lovely piece of his presentation that talked about where we put our money and where we say our values are. Because without water, that is, and you've got to have water to sustain life. And statewide, the whole entire state is looking at a tremendous water shortage. I don't remember exactly the time frame that he spoke about that being in, but we are not focused, the public policy people in this state are not really focused on that issue because everything else takes precedent when they're setting up their budgets. And it's really kind of scary. I'm hoping that we can get him back to speak at the Resiliency Summit that's coming up in May, because more people need to hear what this man had to say. I was just flabbergasted by it, quite frankly. Anyway, I also wanted to ask, as it relates to your presentation this morning, good job working on all those projections. That's really important for us. I was wondering if in your projections, I think I've asked you this before, but just for clarification, are they considering the cost of potentially replacing the pipes along Gulf Boulevard, given the problems that we're having with beach renourishment and protecting our beaches? Because
Yes.
it looks like even if the Army Corps were to say yes right now today, it'd be another 2 years before we could even get started on it. And that means 2 years of hurricane cycle that we have to really say our prayers about, making sure we survive all that.
Yes, absolutely. All of those pipes, all of our pipes throughout our water distribution system were compiled and assessed, and there was criteria to determine the criticality of those pipes and the needs. So those pipes along the beaches were identified, and part of that criticality was the resiliency piece and some of the issues there. So yes, that is being taken into consideration. And to the earlier points about conservation, I will say that, obviously it's critically important that we conserve. I will say that this county has been leaders in conservation. I mean, going back many years, 80s and 90s, the per capita consumption was somewhere around 150 gallons per day per person. And even with all the growth that we've experienced since then, we've cut that in half. I mean, it's 75 gallons per person per day. So that is a lot lower than some of other counties and cities throughout the state. But the question and the discussion today is, can we do more, right? And so it's always important to continue to further that and do more. But I do want to say that because of the policies and programs that have been put in place over the years, we are leaders in that realm. And part of that is the reclaimed water piece and making that investment to do that.
So then my second and last question on this issue is, we've had the reclaimed water program in our county for quite some time, right?
Yes.
Why is it that we don't have more people participating? Seems to me that that would be a natural thing that we would want to pursue, trying to encourage more people to get on the system.
We are going to be looking at that, especially with this Senate Bill 64, is who are those inactive users that they have a pipe going to their house, but they're not using. It could be they just don't have the grass and the irrigation needs, so they don't want to do it. I mean, there could be a lot of reasons for that, but we are going to be evaluating that a little bit further to see if we can get more participation on those particular accounts that have access.
I think that'd be really good. Barry?
Well, just to kind of wrap up, and a lot of the things I was going to mention have been said. The piece about why we're doing this is for capital needs. We had a major sewer pipe that burst this last year. You're all very aware of that. We've got to address these infrastructure needs. I think, how many miles that you have of that type of pipe that you're looking at?
I think it was about 4 miles.
So that's a lot of, pipe to replace. And so the infrastructure needs, and I think you're exactly right, we need to be able to articulate to the residents as to why. These are capital infrastructure replacements. It's not operating, it's real dollars. On an operating side, you've seen their chemicals, the cost of chemicals and things at their treatment plants go up 50–60%, literally over the last couple of years. We've seen significant increases in that. So we're really trying to maintain that system and operate a good system to prevent those types of SSOs and types of things. But in that, and I think Megan and Andrew and their team did a really good job of creating a plan where if people take those conservation measures, their bill can literally stay flat. So, even with all of that, we're able to give people an option, especially on the water side, to be able to reduce the consumption. And if you do that, then, so it really is, I think, and I'm really glad to see you support that tiered structure. I think it's a really good way of going, and it gives people options, and so.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Megan, just clarify for everyone's, I always find it fascinating. How many miles of these pipes does your department maintain for our citizens?
So on the water side, it's just
Countywide.
under 2,000 miles of pipe, water pipe, and on the sewer side, it's just under 1,200 miles of pipe.
I mean,
It's a lot, yeah.
absorb that number for a minute. 2,000 miles. That's extraordinary.
Now,
And another, how many
do
miles
you
for
need
the sewer?
which way we're going to go?
1,200 for sewer.
So the last piece, Commissioners, is from a staff standpoint, we're okay with either option A or B. But we want to get a sense because we got to prepare ordinances and rates, and we got to bring that back to you. And so we'd like to kind of know where your preference is. Not that you can't change, but we need to bring this back, in some kind of format. The other option I wanted to tell you is on June the, 12th? 13th.
Yep.
That is a morning meeting, not an evening meeting, but we still think that having it at that time works.
Which
And the
meeting are
problem,
Which meeting are you talking about?
June 13th.
Oh, June
okay?
13th.
And the reason I say that is we have notification timelines to be able to get it in place by October, and that worked. If we wait later, then we're going to miss that cycle. I just want to get concurrence that that's okay. And we've done that before. It just depends, kind of when that flows. So it is a daytime meeting rather than an evening meeting. But, you always, and people can zoom in, so they have different options now for participating if they so choose. So, but we would like to get where you'd like to go with this. It's not a vote, but we want to be able to prepare the ordinances and bring them back to you.
Today, you want
At least
to,
preference.
you want direction today?
Yeah,
If we could.
yes.
So we can bring those back. I mean, or I could, we could discuss it on Tuesday if you wanted to provide direction then and think about it. But
I have a comment.
Okay. B.
Mike, please.
I'm sorry, sir. Oh, somebody said that.
No,
Oh,
it was not me. It
Oh,
was
I thought that was
somebody
Dave.
above.
I thought that was Dave. Oh, it was
that's
the
our,
voice
that's
from
our background
above.
noise.
I was saying
Pete.
that, I apologize, you guys. I was saying that when I communicated with them, I told them I concurred with partial debt. Pay as you go would just extend the time out too long, and I'm sure that we would have other issues arise while we were trying to pay as we go, and we just don't have that kind of money. And I do not support us going into full debt capacity based on how the market's looking right now and not being sure of how that will look. So I certainly was in favor of partial debt.
So you're talking about B?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Eggers, did you
Yes.
have more input?
Yeah, just real quick. So the 95 million is not additional. It's just instead of in the rates that we have now. We're not adding additional. We're just doing that instead of funding as you go.
Correct, so the 95 million on the water side, we don't have any debt on the water side right now.
None at all.
That would be
Yeah.
95 million
So
of new debt.
So if you do option A, the 95 million that we
would not
need is going to be in the increased rates.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's no additional dollars. That's kind of what I was asking
Yeah,
earlier. And the only other thing I would say is that the state is spending a lot of time and energy right now investigating reclaimed water. That reclaimed water use is just high on the list. So just making sure that nobody thinks that the state's doing nothing. They're doing a lot on that regard. And what we're trying to do is make sure that, that we're kind of in sync with that. We'll make sure people understand we're not talking about drinking reclaimed water. We're just talking about using it. It's amazing that Hillsborough County, where they have the biggest problem, they didn't have any ordinances in place that said any new developments had to use reclaimed water. So they were building new developments with potable water irrigation systems, which you're going, really? At this point in time, that should be almost a mandatory thing. When you're developing new developments today, but, so they now have that in place, so it'll protect the use going forward. But there's a lot of work being done on reclaim. We're gonna have a lot of conversations about that in the years to come, not necessarily this year.
Okay, so
but-
for purposes of moving along today.
I already gave mine. I already told mine.
Can we all have a consensus that Plan B is,
B?
we'd like to direct the staff to look at that?
That's fine.
Brian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, my personal preference is A, I could go along with B. I don't know that B makes that huge of a difference, really, at the end of the day, in the terms of the rates. And if there's ways that residents can keep their rates, close to flat anyways, by doing some of these conservation methods, I'd rather not have the debt and spend the interest at the end of the day, which that's gonna have to be paid in higher rates at some point in time. I mean, I could go along with B, but my personal preference is A.
Got it. Commissioner Latvala? I'm with B. David?
I said B.
Oh, okay. Over here? B. Okay, look at B.
Okay.
All right, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so,
All right, next up, feeding into Commissioner Peters' comments about mandating affordable housing developments, we have affordable housing. So on the way up is Evan Johnson. He's going to provide and direct the conversation today around several different affordable housing initiatives.
Thank you, Barry. Evan Johnson, Planning Division Manager with Housing Community Development, and I'm just going to basically tee up the presentation. I've got our consultant here to talk a little bit more about specifically our code updates that we're working on right now, focused on housing affordability. So I always like this slide. I want to bring it, you'll keep seeing it, just to show you a couple things we will be talking about today. It's first and foremost the code update, and that'll be Mr. Steinbeck here. We'll be going through that. The second piece will be talking a little bit about the draft housing action plan, which is something that we've all agreed to do as part of the housing compact. So we're going to go over where we're at with that and give you a little update and offer a little opportunity for some discussion. I did want to kind of, before our consultant gets into talking about the details of what we're thinking from code updates related to incentives, I did just want to mention a couple of kind of ideas or framework here as to what we've been doing in the past so far and with incentives. So first, we are required by the SHIP program from state funding to have affordable housing incentives. We present them annually and talk and discuss them with an Affordable Housing Advisory Committee every year. They provide recommendations, and we are constantly looking at those incentives to try to make them as effective as possible. Anybody who wants to use those regulatory incentives will apply with Housing Community Development, and that is whether or not they are using funding from one of the grant programs or if they're just coming through only wanting regulatory relief. That then goes through site plan approval with our Building and Development Review Services to make sure that they're doing what they said they were going to do. And right now, as Alan will mention, we have a number of incentives already on the books. So part of the scope that he was asked to look at is evaluate those incentives now. Some of them he's going to recommend to not do anything with. Some he's going to recommend making some changes. But that's kind of the starting point of where we put him with the scope. So with that, I just realized that I've introduced Alan twice without actually telling you who he is. This is Alan Steinbeck. He is a principal with Pritchett Steinbeck Group. They are a consultant, and he will be here to give a little presentation.
Thanks, Evan, and thank you, commissioners. I will say that this is a very nuanced and complicated topic. Understanding affordable housing is difficult and takes a lot of discipline, time, and effort. And we are focused here on the policies of the county. We really took the view of emphasizing how do we get affordable housing units in market rate developments. So you're in the business as a county of providing public funds to affordable housing developers, as I will describe them, who get state and federal money and incentives to make their projects work. And they do get local incentives as well. But this policy initiative is really focusing on those market rate developments. How can we get market rate developers to provide 10 or 20% of their units as affordable units in their projects, and how are the incentives of the county set up to make that happen? There hasn't been a whole lot of success in this regard in the recent past with the county working with market rate developers, so we're trying to calibrate these recommendations and these incentives to have greater participation. I would say about the incentives, the density bonus is a key part of this, and getting that correct is very important. Some communities set their goals very high for affordable housing and don't have enough density bonus in their programs. We've actually done a model to look at the financial incentive of the density bonus to make sure that it's working. And so we've done some background work on this very important incentive that you have in your program. That in and of itself constitutes a public-private partnership. So as we think about this and we think about development, you all are often put in the position of thinking about regulators of development and having your policy regime be that thing that shapes development and regulates it. But this is a partnership program. Just by virtue of having these incentives available, you are providing benefits to a developer, and we're getting back something of that public benefit of affordable housing in return. So the density bonus is key to making the financials work. We've also recommended looking at public gap financing for market rate projects. So just like you enter into partnerships with affordable housing developers, having some money around to incentivize and grow the number of units that may be in any particular project from the public side, and be able to enter into those relationships with some financing and leverage. The rest of them are regulatory relief or sometimes fee relief on the right. We're looking at things like waiving impact fees, permit fees, or other types of transfer payments that could be waived to make the financial equation work out correctly for these projects. We want to refine the incentive structure. The incentive structure does exist in the code, and you do have a manual, but the incentives are not very well defined currently, so it's not measurable and tangible and relatable as incentives in the way that we want them to be. So we are updating the code. We want to maximize process efficiency. The county has taken steps to make your development review process very efficient and very flexible already. So you've done a lot in this arena to make those steps, but we are including that efficiency in the affordable housing development manual that we're writing. So we want to have a clear path for people moving through this system, getting approved, and for monitoring their projects, and to make sure that we strike a balance between incentives and regulatory relief and the things that we require people to do in this program, because we don't want to have too many requirements and scare people off from this, this non-mandatory program that we're working on here. In an effort to get more participation from the private sector and market rate developers, we have proposed lowering the percentage threshold that is required to be in a designated affordable housing development. So if you think about your typical not-for-profit affordable housing developer, they will often develop and deliver projects within that under 60% area median income and under 80% area median income. So they're typically operating in those two left columns. A lot of the market rate developments that are underway now are supplying units on the two right columns of that 80% of area median income and above, what we would often describe as workforce housing. And we are really looking hard at that, because I think that's the place where there's less federal money and state money targeted towards affordable housing, and yet a great need here in Pinellas County, where you have the longstanding issues of your workforce having trouble living in the county because of affordability issues. So this public-private partnership with private sector market rate developers will work a part of this affordable housing regime that's not well suited to be delivered under certain federal and state guidelines. The proposed incentives are to have a 20-year term for rental and home ownership, so a term that makes sense for investing in a project and having the life of the project run up until a point where you need to have a major investment and rehabilitate a project. There's no unit number minimum, so any type of project can participate. And we want to make sure that the designated units for affordable housing are comparable to the market rate units in the project relative to size and the type of units in there. We're proposing to do this bonus structure relative to the maximum densities in the comprehensive plan. So this table summarizes the residential categories of future land use. You see your current allowances for units per acre in that first column range anywhere from 2.5 units to acre to 30 units per acre. The bonus that we've recommended is up to 100% in these categories, and you see the resulting range of densities on the right from 5 to 60. So many categories are going up to 100%. Certain categories, as you see in the commercial example, start at 80% bonus. And the activity centers and mixed-use corridors, because they're much higher density to begin with, start as low as 60% bonus and go up to 100% depending on the category. So we're talking about potentially doubling the size of a project through this bonus structure. Yes, Mr. Eggers.
Back to the previous slide, you talked about 20-year term for rental and home ownership. Is there anything that can be done during that 20 years, that any kind of ongoing incentives that we could look at to negotiate a longer term? So if we get like 8 years into it, because 20 years obviously it goes by, as I get older, faster than when I was younger. So is there something that we can do to incentivize and kind of renegotiate the term a little bit? Are there ongoing incentives at that point?
Yes, there are a couple of things you can do. One is you can agree to that up front by potentially having additional public subsidy to write down the cost of that additional 10 years. So you could have a designated pot of funding that didn't have all of the state and federal encumbrances with it, but was very flexible county money to just extend that process and make that number extend. There's value capture from property taxes and other things that you can do. If you can imagine tax increment finance type strategies being applied to these, you could also set aside or abate or otherwise use that kind of revenue project specific to make this happen. And those are the two big ones. The third one is you can just require it. And we talked about this, about the appropriate length of time. This 20-year period is something I had recommended because it made sense for a private developer who may want to rehabilitate or sell after that time frame. That oftentimes happens. But it can become very expensive every year of basically subsidizing the rent. Is a lot of money, and we've done those cash flow analysis to assess that. But those are the two big ones.
Yeah, I mean, I understand trying to encourage them, so you don't want to make that too long. But as time goes on and they've changed out, and are there benefits to keeping it that way? Something to think about. We don't have to answer those today necessarily, but I mean, those are options that we'd have to look at and have the system in-house to kind of revisit. I mean, it checks off, you know, we're 8 years into a 20-year for these 250 units. Maybe we ought to look at it just to see if there's anything else that we can do. I mean, you hate to do all this work and then in 20-year term you're losing that benefit.
Commissioner, we're also buying down, especially on the rental unit, you're buying down that gap. And so, you got to accommodate and you got to pay for that. And what we've also seen, though, is we've seen as they come back and they want to renovate those units after 20 years, that then becomes another affordability period because they're typically getting state and federal funds to be able to do that. So we're able to then tack on to the affordability period when they ask for additional funding.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I just, we're not going to get, rates are still going to be pressured upward here. If, we don't have any additional lands, so to speak, to build like they do in some other counties. So that's always going to be a stress point here. So anyway, thank you.
It is. We had a dozen slides on monitoring, but we had to make some difficult decisions about what to include this morning. But I would say that monitoring is important. These units will be monitored. You will know when a development is coming up on its term. You will be able to enter into, just like not-for-profit oftentimes, and low-income housing developments will renegotiate, get refinanced, get assistance with refinancing through traditional avenues. You could also have a refinancing round that has county participation in it as well at that time to extend that. You wouldn't have to necessarily make that decision now. You could do that later on.
Anything else? Anyone? No? Kathleen? No? All right, thank you so much.
I'll move, there's just a couple more, we'll move on straight to the finish here. We have talked about incentives. We do have certain requirements that we're looking at. So what is going to be required of these developments? We talked about the number of units, access to transportation is key. And then compatibility is also important. If you can imagine upsizing these projects in terms of density, making them bigger, there's some criteria that we have in there about how those buildings are sited, their heights, their setbacks, and et cetera. So we've completed an assessment of the affordable housing policies. We've made some recommendations. There are now some draft land development code text amendments and a draft manual that's being circulated within the staff. And we'll be having that available very soon. Our next steps would be to come back to you with formal code amendments and that manual updated. You'll see that very soon in the near future, so we can move forward towards getting this policy implemented this year.
One last question for you, if I could. From a marketing standpoint, do you have any thoughts on that as far as marketing to our community? I think one of the issues that we seem to have is most people agree that we have a housing issue, whether it's buying or renting. I don't even know what the occupancy rates are, but they're probably well over 90, maybe 95%. So do we have a way to let our folks know that it might be built near their backyard, but it won't be in their backyard, that we can start talking to them? Because I think everybody agrees we need it, but it's just don't build it here, kind of thing. So how do we market that? Because it really is just, in most cases, our first responders, our teachers, they're folks that are just, needing a spot to live here, so we don't make them go to Pasco County.
And
we
Commissioner,
want them to live here, work, play here, right in our county. So.
And Commissioner Evan came up because that's, I think, one of the tasks of the compact. And Becca's going to go over the compact in a minute, but bringing all the municipalities together, and they're focused around the things that they can do. And one of it is to take away the stigma, of housing affordability and educate residents on that. And come to grips with some of the density issues that, you hear about every time you have a zoning case in front of you. So we need to address that. We need to address it globally as a county, including all of our municipalities. And we've got to get real serious about some of the density issues. We're seeing, and you've seen communities that want to keep everything the same, but then ask for the gap financing of what it takes to build. It's not affordable. They've got to address density as part of our housing affordability strategy. And that's tough decisions. And so that really is part of the housing compact. That should be one of their main tasks, in addition to having, countywide strategies. Evan can certainly speak to this, but I'm laser focused on that. They've got to do a better job of that, because we know who shows up at the zoning hearings, and we've got to help our elected officials with educating our residents on what we're trying to accomplish here.
We certainly have an infrastructure of demands already, and I'm talking about, whether it's workforce out in our tourism industry, or our cops that are on the streets, and we're a shortage there too, and and we don't want them moving to Pasco, because once they find an opening up there, then they stay there. We have to then double the cost of recruiting to get people here. So, I think this is obviously one of our most critical issues, is trying to figure out.
You want your kids to be able to live here when they, grow up and move out of the house, and they can't afford to do that. And so we have a real opportunity, but we've got to address it through density. We've got to address it but a lot of the money, as you know, is not county money. It's federal tax credits, it's state SHIP funds, it's you're piecing these together. We're one piece of that overall funding strategy, but density has to be part of that solution. And again, for the unincorporated, very little of this is built. It's mostly within municipalities, but so we have to have a countywide strategy in addressing it.
It's a tough one. The residents don't often get into that discussion until it's a development in their neighborhood. It'd be nice to get that conversation going with them as well, not just our the government counterparts, but the folks that are concerned about overdevelopment.
Yeah.
And we
You have
get
two-
it. We
You have
get
two
it.
conversations. I mean, you do. You have residents say, we absolutely, they have kids, they grow up and they need a place to live. They say, we absolutely need affordable housing. And then you have a different group that shows up at zoning hearing saying, don't increase the density. So,
Well, maybe we
got
ought to tell them that you don't want them living with you, so you need to have a house so that the kids can move,
So we need to do a better job of that, and that is one of the jobs of the Housing Compact, for us bringing people together. I'll turn it over to Evan and to Rebecca to kind of cover some
Okay,
of that.
hold on just one second. Commissioner Peters?
I agree with everything you said, but, one of the last ones that came up, we were very specific about keeping the character of North County, one house per 1 acre, and we've done a lot of that in North County. A lot of that in North County, and I, spoke about that one in Seminole because we have not done that in South County. And I agree that we need to come up with a plan. I agree we need to have affordable housing, but I don't agree that we have to take away the charm and the character of some of this county just for the sake of we need affordable housing. And so I just think it's a very careful balance because the residents are right. I mean, they are right. They moved into a community that they expected that community, whether it's a little neighborhood or whatever it is, to be like that. And, in North County, when we wanted to take from 1 house to 2 acres down to 1 acre, a lot of people were upset.
I know.
They were really upset about it. And, so I get, especially in South County, because it is so dense. And it is getting denser every single month, and I get it, but I don't want to sacrifice some of the charm of this community and what makes it really special and just make it dense everywhere. I just don't. And so I hope in your plan you have a good balanced plan because I'm not going to tell these residents are wrong.
I don't think everything belongs everywhere, and I think you can go to the Advantage Pinellas plan that talks about the corridors and how and where you locate
Right.
folks. And so I think we can do it in a methodical manner, but it does require change, and so I'm not saying anywhere and everywhere you put maximum densities, but if we do everything, if we do it all the same, we're not going to get a different result. Right now, we're not meeting the needs of future housing needs.
I'm just here to hand it off to Becca more or less, but I did want to respond to both of those, Commissioner Eggers and Commissioner Peters. First, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the good work that our communications department's been doing in and around messaging for housing affordability, including those issues that you mentioned about not in my backyard and stigma and those ideas. They have been working with us closely to put together kind of a holistic messaging campaign for that. So you certainly will be seeing some of the outcomes of that in the near future as well. And then Commissioner Peters, you hit it right on the nail, Barry. The focus is really going to be on key corridors. That's where we want this to happen. That's where we already have the infrastructure and the transportation in place. So, but those are going to be discussions we have to have moving forward for sure. So now I'm going to hand it off. Oh, there she is, to Becca.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rebecca Stonefield, Strategic Advisor with Housing and Community Development. I am going to go through some of the highlights of our Housing Action Plan and where we're going with that. So, of course, the action plan is how we're going to implement this Housing Compact that we're working with our municipal partners and for Pinellas to advance how we get to affordable housing solutions. So the action plan itself is focused around the overall 10-year implementation of the compact. Some of the actions are identified as more immediate, more short-term in that 1 to 3 year timeframe. And the remainder is really that overall, what is the larger, maybe systemic thing we have to address over the length of the compact. So just to highlight some of the key actions that we're identifying within the plan, we look at grounding ourselves in data, understand not only the background data, but how we share information and having web-based applications of existing housing stock where there may be some vulnerabilities, whether it's due to concentrations of cost burden homes or areas that may be prone to flooding, and understanding what vulnerability exists with our housing stock today. Also making sure we maintain a database that talks about where are our surplus lands and which of those lands may be appropriate for affordable housing.
Looking at different potential funding opportunities at the local level, at the county-wide level, a revolving loan fund program may be appropriate for different actions, so we identify that as a potential. Also looking at how we, getting to one of the earlier points discussed, certain part of our housing stock that has affordable housing already may be nearing the end of that affordability period. So how do we look at programs and ways to potentially extend the length of that term? Also looking at other types of programs to ensure that we still have quality housing stock in place, whether it's rehabilitation grant programs or other types of bringing substandard housing up to better quality. Other local actions that we'll have to take, each of the compact members, is looking at our existing policies and land development codes and identifying where those barriers may be in place to not allowing for that increased number of affordable housing units, again, primarily focusing along those corridors where they're transit supportive, where we're looking at mixed use and issues like that. Again, looking at those increased residential density opportunities, looking at that, making sure that where those are placed, we have that alternative transportation system invested in, bike ped, transit, et cetera, and other types of amenities that you want when you have that increased density. Also looking at those areas in the county that may have traditionally not been invested in the past, and how can we target programs, potentially pilot programs, to not only look at new affordable housing units, but how do we retain those affordable housing options that are in place already. And then, of course, looking at identifying healthy food access as essential to, as we're providing affordable housing, do they have access to that type of amenity and actually necessity. So those are just some of the highlighted actions. Right now we're in the process of working with our different stakeholders, the different communities who are compact members and for Pinellas, et cetera, to hone the action plan. We are intending to utilize, and you'll be seeing a resolution at some point, that the For Pinellas Board, who is made up of members of representatives across the different jurisdictions in the county, that they act as kind of that coordinating body who can advance the housing action plan and the compact, kind of be the forum for that continuing coordinated conversation. And that will go by resolution to the For Pinellas Board, as well as yourselves as the countywide planning authority to designate them as that function. And then also the housing action plan would have to be endorsed by each of the compact partners as well. So we are also intending to roll out the action plan at the summit, have that be part of a critical kind of messaging piece throughout the summit, and have that available. And of course, the summit is on April 28th of this year. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions, anyone? How about you give us where the location of the summit?
Sure, it is at the Largo Performing Arts Center, and that it's a program of around 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions, thoughts, concerns? No? All right, thank you so much. Very well done. Yes.
All right, next up is Jim Abernathy, and we're going to talk about your first introduction to budget. So Jim's going to talk about budget forecasting, some of what they're seeing in anticipation, because
Barry?
we had some other slides.
We're not
That's
gonna-
background information, yeah.
Oh, you mean the accessory dwelling units?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to move on from there.
Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Jim Abernathy. I'm with the Office of Management and Budget. I'm here to present the budget forecast for the FY '24 through FY '29. So why do we forecast? We forecast because of goal 5.2 of the strategic plan to be responsible stewards of the public's resources. The Government Finance Officers Association recommends forecasting as a best practice to guide policy and programmatic decisions. While the budget is our roadmap for one fiscal year, we believe it is important to know what impacts that decisions made today may have on the long-term fiscal sustainability of the county, which will help our decision makers make better informed choices. The forecast is meant to show the cumulative effects of all of the decisions we may make, both positive and negative, allowing for changes to be made when necessary or desired. Having this information in advance can help identify both the opportunities and challenges, allowing time to fully study the choices being presented to us. This is the 14th year that the forecast has been a standalone document. Periodic updates are made to the forecast as new information becomes available. We will include the updated forecast in both the proposed and adopted budget books. The document includes forecasts for 10 of the county's key funds. The details of the forecast are in your staff report and available, or will soon be available, on the Citizens Budget website for the public. Today, however, we will focus on the general fund, the sewer fund, and the Tourist Development Trust, the Tourist Development Tax Fund. So before we look at the individual fund forecasts, I want to show you how we develop the forecast. Our forecast is developed using a set of assumptions that are applied to current information. We use more than 30 assumptions, with some affecting specific funds, such as the change in fuel tax revenues, while others apply to all 10, such as the change in personnel costs for salaries and health insurance. These assumptions are based on input from both internal and external sources, including our departments and agencies, the state and federal government, and local and national economists. At the beginning of the forecast of the budget process, the departments were given these assumptions to help them develop their FY24 request. These assumptions were applied to the current year budget to help shape the FY24 budgets you will be presented with in June, and to come up with projections in future years. The assumptions are not applied to one-time items. For example, a reimbursement for hurricanes or tropical storms or other specific needs that only apply to a specific year. Also, the one-time salary adjustments for FY23 is not included in the FY24 budget. In addition to the economic assumptions, we also build in all of the known set changes that will affect our funds, such as adopted rate changes. This type of analysis is done for all of the funds within the forecast when possible. So let's take a look at the local economic outlook. So after 113 consecutive months of job growth, we experienced 1.1 million job losses in March of 2020, while April of 2020 showed an additional 20.5 million, the largest loss in a single month. As a comparison between October 2010 and February of 2020, the economy added 22.1 million jobs. In essence, the jobs gained during the 113 consecutive months of job growth were eliminated in 2 months due to the COVID economic shutdown. Since the initial shock to the job market early in the pandemic, 24.6 million jobs have been added through January of 2023. The most recent data available shows the U.S. unemployment rate at 3.6% compared to 2.5% for the state and 2.1% in Pinellas County. The housing market began to show signs of weakness as sales volume fell 18% statewide and 21.9% in Pinellas County. However, median sales prices continued to climb, increasing 16.6% statewide and 20.3% in Pinellas County for single-family homes. Taxable value increased by 13.1% for FY23 to almost $111 billion, the 10th consecutive year of increase. The taxable values are estimated to increase another 7% to more than $118 billion in FY24, with updated information from the property appraiser coming on June 1st and July 1st. Since FY 2003, the average growth has been 5% annually, As you can see from the chart, our taxable values are now tracking above the historical trend line. There are many factors that can impact the accuracy of the forecast. Some of these we can control, such as utility rate changes or the millage rate. Others are outside of our control. Either the state or federal government could impose new regulatory requirements or shift funding responsibility down to the county level. Taxable values may grow at a slower pace than our projections, potentially reducing available resources. And since we don't assume new policy in the forecast when specific items are scheduled to end, we reflect that in our projections. Now we can start looking at the funds. The Emergency Medical Services Fund is balanced through the forecast period and maintains the millage rate of 0.9158 mils, which has been in place since FY13. The forecast includes funding for both the ambulance contract and first responders funding request. For the Surface Water Utility Fund, equivalent residential unit growth is anticipated to remain flat throughout the forecast period. Revenues are based on a rate of $117.74 per ERU, which is unchanged from FY17. There are mitigation credits that are intended to reduce the assessment for developed properties that have on-site stormwater management systems that reduce storm runoff impacts from the county or from the property to the county system. In the Capital Projects Fund, the current penny, known as Penny 4, runs through December of 2029. The CIP is a 6-year plan of projects. Adjustments to the timing of the projects are made each year to keep the fund balance and account for changes to project schedules. The forecast for the Capital Projects Fund shows that the fund will be balanced in FY24 and 25 based upon the current 6-year CIP. Because of recent cost escalations, projects will need to be reevaluated and reprioritized during the development of the 24 through 29 proposed capital improvement plan to fit within the total funding availability of the 10-year term.
On that note, I mean, you know, we come back last year and we said we're finally balanced with the penny because we saw, you know, escalation. What we're still seeing is just price escalation continue to increase for capital construction projects. You know, and so now as they refine, as they get the engineering on the project that we said we wanted to build, now we get pricing, those costs, you know, are higher. And that's going to be the challenge on meeting all of the obligations in that 10-year window for the penny. So we're still continuing to work on it. It likely, you know, a couple projects at the end will have to move to the next penny.
In the Airport Revenue and Operating Fund, the total expenditures exceed revenues through most of the forecast period. However, the revenues from operations cover operating expenditures. The fluctuation in expenditures are caused by the timing of the capital projects. Fund balance and grant revenue is used to fund capital improvement projects at the airport. In the Transportation Trust Fund, with the adoption of the 2 dedicated millage amounts, the fund is healthy in meeting current obligations. You will recall that the FY23 adopted budget includes a dedicated millage of 0.1279 mils to stabilize the fund adopted in FY22, and an additional rate of 0.1738 mils that was adopted in FY23 dedicated to enhancing the maintenance of the county's roads, bridges, and transportation infrastructure, and that amount is half of what was needed. The water fund, the current rate plan in the water fund includes annual increases of 1% through FY23 and assumes that these increases continue through the forecast period. These rate increases are expected to provide sufficient revenues to maintain reserves and fund capital replacement needs. However, the rate study which you were just presented will help determine what the rates will be for water. One thing I do want to mention is that when we were doing the water and sewer forecast, we were trying to work with the forecast and the rate study to try to keep them in line. They may not be exact, but we did take that into consideration as we were doing these. In the solid waste fund, operating expenses remain relatively constant over the forecast period. Capital expenses will vary depending on the need in each particular year, ranging between $18 and $35 million. The current power purchase agreement expires in December of 2024, causing annual deficits starting in FY25. The accumulated fund balance will be used as a planned drawdown to maintain a balanced budget through the forecast period. The forecast includes the second and third years of tipping fee increases as approved on June 21st of 2022, with no assumed tipping fee increases in the forecast years after that. So in the general fund, the forecast indicates that it is balanced over the forecast period without millage increases while maintaining reserves at or above the target level. The reserve level topic will be discussed during an April 20th work session.
Correct. So long-awaited discussion on our reserve levels we have teed up for April.
You don't anticipate them going higher, right?
No, but you know, we're going to get into this, and since we're talking about the general fund, you know, this year we're just now at our first meeting, really talking about the upcoming 2024 budget. There are a lot of pressures that, you know, I just had a conversation with the sheriff about what he's seeing in contract increases. Our contract increases are across the board, and they're significantly higher. His jail medical's out of sight. You know, we know the issues we're having about retaining employees. We've done a couple of critical areas, but we have other areas to do just to, you know, maintain our employment. You know, 911, we had to do a significant increase in salaries to be competitive, and that's not to take what it takes to live in this market. It's to make our people the same pay as St. Petersburg and Tampa and Hillsborough and, you know, and area places that they can go and do the same job for more money. And we got to such a critical shortage level, we had to act. I was hiring sheriff deputies on an overtime basis back to be able to fill positions. So there's areas where, you know, we've tried to maintain our cost, but it's just not feasible. We went to one-year contracts to see if the market settles out versus long-term contracts. But the sheriff's seeing that, we're seeing that, and so we're looking at ways to reduce our cost, but it's really, really difficult, and it's across the board. That's the things that we're trying to pull out, you know, and be able to show as we get into this next year's budget. And we're going to show you also the efforts that we do to try to reduce our cost.
To follow up with that, the departments continue to look for efficiencies in their operations without negatively impacting the services provided to our citizens, visitors, and businesses. Maintaining this positive condition assumes continued use of non-recurring funds for one-time expenditures and continuing to balance the desires to improve and expand services with the limited resources available to accomplish these desires. This graph demonstrates the balance in the general fund over the 6-year forecast period. As you can see, we are able to maintain an excess of 15% of revenue in reserves throughout the forecast period based on current projections. These projections are based on maintaining current year service levels with inflationary increases for personal services and operating according to assumptions, as well as the current millage rate. In the sewer fund forecast, revenue estimates do not include an assumed increase in service rates. Operating expenses reflect a substantial increase in chemical and electricity costs in FY23, with an additional 7.7% increase estimated in FY24, as continued annual increases align with the forecast CPI assumptions. Capital expenses will vary depending on the need in each particular year, ranging between $50.5 million and $61.8 million, which is an average of about $52 million per year. With no adjustments in current revenue and expenditure projections and assumptions, the accumulated fund balance will be depleted in late FY26 or early FY27. This graph demonstrates the declining and negative balance in the sewer, in the sewer fund over the 6-year forecast period. This graph shows the projected revenues and expenditures for the sewer operating current debt obligations and capital improvements. As you can see, operating and CIP expenditures exceed operating revenue each year of the forecast. These projections are based on maintaining current year service levels with inflationary increases for personal services, operating, and others according to assumptions. In the Tourist Development Tax Fund, other than our ongoing commitment to help beach renourishment projects, the county's commitment to capital projects is scheduled to end in FY24. There are 3 projects at various stages of negotiations for county support: the Philly Spring Training Facilities in Clearwater, the Salvador Dali Museum in St. Petersburg, and the St. Petersburg Historical Society. But final agreements have not been reached. Each of these projects has been brought to the board and given initial approval, but they have not gotten to the final agreement stage. If and when these projects are finalized, they will be added to the forecast for future reimbursement projects. The forecast also does not include any funding for potential projects that have not been formally submitted to the BCC review and approval.
So Jim, the three potential,
Projects?
yeah, is it, did you say the Phillies, the Dolly, and what was the third one?
The St. Pete Historical Society,
Oh,
that was around $2.8 million was the initial request and initial approval by the BCC. The final signed agreement has not been reached.
So Commissioners, but, so he's looking at from financial and what we have, formally submitted. Obviously, you have a couple others, and we're looking at those from a long-term financing for all of our TDC capital needs. And so there's work going on that. So that'll be presented to you at a later date.
That, there had been some discussion, at least, and we had that meeting, I guess, the joint meeting, about raising that 0.5% to 1% for
the
beach
beach nourishment.
Yeah, is that, I see we're still looking at it, at
Well,
0.5%.
we're still looking at that. I guess the question is, what the need is. There's just so many, unanswered questions around beach nourishment that we need to get further along. Can we move the Corps off of, the solution is, can we move the Corps off of their position? And so we would like an answer, to that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we were talking about the infrastructure to help keep the sand in place, and a lot of different.
As I said, I'm more than willing to work, to look at that. The question is can it get a permit to do it? And that's what all the beach mayors I know individually met with you, and I think they have a very valid point. We want to look at that. I wouldn't, my personal recommendation would say let's wait and get some of those answers before we modify the allocation, because if we're able to do 1 or 2 of those things, the amount that we appropriate is sufficient currently. But if it isn't, well, then we'll have to address it based upon your priorities. I don't have a good answer for it. I'd like to kind of play that out a little bit before we commit to any specific project. It's ongoing. We're working on this.
Commissioner Latvala.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As it regards to this, to the 60-40 split, how would we go about changing that? Because I don't think that there is a problem telling the Pinellas story to tourists. We break records every year. It seems like, and when it comes to tourism, and all we need to do is open the windows to see all the people that are waiting to get to our beautiful beaches. So when would we, if we tried to change that formula, when would we do that?
Well,
Because that would provide more funding for capital projects.
That would have to be a modifications to the TDC plan, That would have to be formally voted on by the TDC Council and then come to the Board of Commissioners.
And we'd have to have a meeting with the hoteliers and the people
Well,
who
yeah,
are,
and that'd be through the TDC.
and we've had those discussions in the past, they haven't gone very well. quite
Commissioners,
frankly.
before, you're getting hit with a lot of projects and a lot of asks. As we look out at the forecast period of the capital construction needs, as long as people are reasonable in the request and it's justifiable to the taxpayer in terms of what we're, proposing, you've got a very healthy capital fund in the TDC. And so, I guess my question is, let us get through that planning period, present those to you, and if you want to pursue, that split or something, you certainly can do that. But you might have sufficient resources to be able to address a lot of your capital needs, as long as we can get a decent financing plan for the various capital projects.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem looking at it again. We looked at it probably 5 years ago, and I kind of asked the same questions that you were asking, and I think at that time, and when I look back on it, it probably would have been a mistake to switch. But I mean, this is 5 years later, and it doesn't hurt to look at it and to see the numbers and to see, how that actually affects from a marketing standpoint, because it is a pretty
Go to the next slide.
there's a big box out there of money that's spent on marketing and promotion of Pinellas County. And it doesn't hurt to understand it better and look at it, occasional look. I don't have a problem with that.
Mr. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's also worthy of at least having a discussion. I mean, with the record tourism dollars that we have coming in, I mean, there's certainly plenty of money there for promoting the area. So I think it's worthy of having a discussion about it at some point.
Jewel?
Nothing to add. I think the county administrator hit the nail on the head. What you would need to do is modify your tourist development plan, which is where that 60-40 split is provided for. It would go through the same process as everything else, where you'd come before the TDC for a recommendation, but that decision is ultimately really your discretion.
Anything else, Commissioner? Anybody? All right.
So the final slide, this graph shows the projected revenues and expenditures for the 40% portion of the fund dedicated to the capital funding program within CVB. As you can see, the revenue for capital projects exceed capital expenditures each year of the forecast. Because the county does not have capital commitments beyond FY24, the reserves for the capital funding program is projected to continue to grow well in excess of the annual beach renourishment payment throughout the forecast period. Projected balance in the reserve for capital projects increases from $112 million in FY24 to $286.5 million in FY29. And in reference, the three projects mentioned earlier currently are asking for $60.3 million in total, which would take down these amounts by that.
Could you rewind that a couple sentences there? Just, I wanted to hear that number
Thought that got your
again.
attention.
Projected balance in the reserves for capital projects increases from $112 million in FY24 to $286.5 million in FY25.
Yeah, these numbers here are just each year, so there's a
Yeah,
cumulative.
it has a cumulative effect.
Yeah, what's the starting balance in '24?
It'll be about $112 million that we'll be budgeting in reserves for capital. It's projected to bring in, almost $20 million per percent in FY24.
Per percent.
So,
Okay.
so,
120.
yeah.
Yeah, and Commissioners, that's the reason I was saying you've got some dollars there, but we also want to make sure each project stands on its own and is justifiable in the ask. That's the reason I hate putting those numbers out, because then somebody says it's like a free pot of money. It's not, and it's got to be responsibly spent. But you do have a significant fund balance to address. You also brought up at the meeting about youth sports. and some opportunities there. We're going to be pursuing those. You gave us the go-ahead, and we're going to pursue that next phase of the analysis to really bring youth sports in that, which would, again, going to the Commissioner's point, would really drive some of that tourism, and it's a good investment in future tourism, and especially in some of your secondary hotel markets. So, yeah, we're going to be pursuing all those, and you've got some money to play with, to address these competing needs.
We would just like to remind everyone that our Citizens Guide to the Budget website includes some very helpful information on the Pinellas County budget, included the 6-year forecast, videos from all budget-related meetings, presentations and handouts from the meetings, and other information such as trim and how the budget process works in the budget calendar. So,
I'm sorry, clarification again. I'm back to the 280 million number. Is that the total reserve, or is that just for the capital?
that's just the capital portion.
So what about the operating side?
The operating would be even bigger because they're getting 60% of the revenues.
So
Yeah, but your expenditures.
Yeah, it is a higher number. I don't have it offhand.
You mean the reserve number in 2029 is a higher number than 280 million? Just trying to get a feel for that reserve level on the operating side, and what would we be using it for on the operating? Since we seem to have enough to operate each year, what's the reserve there going to be used for?
It's going to be almost $220 million projected in FY '29.
500 million.
Yes.
Okay. And I think that would be, back to the question of, just taking a look at it, what is that reserve level being, what are we saving it for? We have a lot of money that we're using on an ongoing basis for staff and marketing and promotion, and we still have this 280 or $220 million reserve. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Good job. Okay, Barry?
All right, so this, again, that was just throwing out and putting out the baseline of the budget. We're jumping in starting next month and do budget meetings with departments. We're going to start going through this in detail. We'll provide you periodic updates, and then you'll see it all coming to the budget information sessions in June. So,
Barry, on the housing issue that we didn't get to today, I guess it was some alternative development.
there were some alternative slides.
I just thought there were some interesting things to just hear about. When might we look at that again?
We'll bring that back after the housing compact, because they're going to bring back a resolution, and we can capture that then.
Thank you.
So for the agenda, we'll go ahead and jump into the agenda if you're ready. The first substantive item is item number 9. This is a budget amendment to realign. This is coming out of reserves. There's 3 particular areas I want to hit on here. The first one, $625,000. That was a request from the sheriff. And here, he had an officer that got a whiff of fentanyl out on the street and almost passed out. And this is a kit that they can do that doesn't have the officer have to take the spoon and put it in and test it. They can put it into a machine so the officer doesn't have to come in contact with them. It's expensive, but I don't think you can argue with the safety of our officers out on the street. This is a request from the sheriff, and we support that. The next item is $825,000 simply because of shortfalls in the court recorder fees. And so that's a staff. He's done a good job of reducing staff and holding vacancies. So he's tried to minimize the request, but his recording fees simply tanked. And so because of the higher interest rates, that's where he gets them off of is for mortgages. And that's what he pays his staff from. And so it's a significant shortfall. He's asked for us to be able to cover that, so he has budget through the year. Questions? $8,900, we're just funding up Commissioner Latval's cost center to be equal to all the other commissioners. Commissioner Seal had a lower cost center, so we're putting money back in to be able to have equal, so all commissioners have an equal cost center.
And we think that's a good idea?
I'm not commenting.
That was a question mark. That wasn't a statement.
And then the last item,
Wait, could you explain that
Just
last
kidding.
one again?
Commissioner Seal brought her budget down very low.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
She
I
wasn't
forgot.
going on
So,
conferences and
so
all
we're
that
just putting
stuff.
it back to where all the commissioners have equal budget.
There you go, Commissioner Lapdauer, we're all looking out for you. What'd he say?
He didn't say that, not with y'all money, he didn't say that. He meant his personal money.
Thanks for that clarification. And the last item is, it's out of reserves, but this is for the CAD system out at Safety and Emergency Services. We're going to be utilizing American Rescue Plan funds as a replacement funds, and that frees up funds to where we can do the computer-aided dispatch. So just a little shifting of funds, but it's all programmed with the CAD. And this is the countywide CAD system, which in my opinion is probably the #1 safety issue we've done. Okay, moving on, item number 10 is award of bid to Rick Richards for mechanical thinning of vegetation. This is an ongoing contract that we've had in the past, rebid, and we use this where our crews can't get in. But as you can see, 13% increase in price prior to, based upon the prior contract. Item 11 is award of bid to New Era Electric for steel mast arms and signalization at 4 locations, and they're listed within your packet. 65% of these are federal funds. So,
Hey, Barry, on number 10, that mechanical thinning, really getting back to the issues that we had last summer with our contracts for just right-of-way mowing, that has nothing to do with this.
No,
But I'm just,
that's a separate
Are we set on that now? Did we get those renegotiated with companies to cover?
she just said you have an item in April to award based upon the rebidding
Heading into
of
the
those.
summer months so that we don't have jungles in our,
Correct.
you know.
And we also incorporated your request as a program request last year to increase the mowing cycle.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Item number 12 is an award of bid for 42nd Avenue North for sidewalk improvements. Item 13 is Mellenbacher Road sidewalk project. Item 14 is award of bid to Site One Landscaping for supplies of herbicides, aquatic herbicides, and et cetera. And again, price of chemicals on this contract increased an average of 137% over the previous contract.
Wow.
We're seeing, and any of the chemicals are through the roof. Next is Survey Tech, and this is for LiDAR imaging. 16 is ranking of firms with 10 firms, and these firms are going to help us with all of our ARPA projects. And so we had to bid them because they have to incorporate all the federal requirements for our ARPA projects. So these will be the firms we use to do the engineering and architecture or whatever it is. Oh, it's construction administration inspection, so. Item 18 is ranking of firms. This is for staff augmentation, so even though it's a large amount, it's an as-needed contract, so when they backfill positions, that's a firm that we would use for that. Item 19, this is requirements for replacement of heavy and light-duty equipment. I did want to highlight for you, under this proposal, they are going to have a pilot project to get 6 heavy-duty, or which are they? They're the F-150s, electric vehicles. What they want to do through this pilot project, they're more expensive, but they also, the total life cycle is projected to cost about the same or less. So we want to, the market hasn't caught up, obviously, so you can't get very many. We were able to obtain 6, and we may not even get that amount, but if we can do that, then we're going to test them, and we're going to look at the true cost of ownership to see, does it really cost less? And that way we'll know going forward as the supply catches up whether that's a smart investment or not. So.
Hey, Barry, the city of Largo has done this. They really like it. just FYI.
Well, we've got other electric vehicles, but now we're talking about more heavy-duty type trucks and stuff. And these are like the first ones out. I think Kevin drove that on a test track, didn't you?
How'd it work, Kevin?
Oh, you drove in one. So this is a pilot project. There is additional cost, but that way our staff gets used to the maintenance on them. So we can use it as a pilot.
What maintenance?
Well, as it goes forward, not initially like any vehicle, but in year 3, we got to maintain those vehicles. We have to have the type of equipment, and they have to be certified and trained on them. So our staff. So that'll be a different training piece for our staff. Anyway, unless there's concerns, we'll establish that pilot program as part of the purchase of these vehicles. Item 20 is an award to Ajax Paving. This is for cargo apron reconstruction and replacement over at the airport. Item 21 is it's an authorization or it's a continuation of our $4.50 passenger facility charge at the airport. No increase, just the same. I think you have to do it every year, right? I've seen this before. That's the reason I think it's.
Good morning, Kevin Knutson, County Administrator. It's actually not done on a time basis, but on a dollar amount basis. So we identify what the funding will be used for, request from the FAA a certain amount of money is divided by the $4.50. And when we reach that, we have to renew it. We've been doing it faster and faster because we have more and more passengers coming through.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How long have we had that 450 fee? Is it been?
We just raised it not
Kevin,
too long ago.
any idea?
Yeah, just curious how long we've had that same fee.
I'm not certain about the length of time we've had it, but it's been for a very long time. It's probably been decades. I will get that information and get it to you.
How does that compare with other airports?
$4.50 is probably the lowest I've ever seen. I think over at Tampa, for instance, it's excess of $15.
Oh, really?
But I can get that information as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'd kind of like to see a history on that.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons why we're an affordable site. I don't know if you saw the article that we're the cheapest airport to fly out of. Part of the reason is it's cheaper for the airlines to use our facilities because those charges per passenger are lower as well.
Okay, thanks.
Item 22 is Eastlake Library, MSTU. And this is for them to add network infrastructure, Cat 6 wiring, and additional access points and Wi-Fi availability. Item number 23 is our, this is for the new Innovation Center.
Question?
Yes, Commissioner Justice.
The contract is a 10-year contract. Does that seem like a longer than standard contract for a vendor? And it's a 5-year renewal. Is that at our option or the vendor option?
Kevin?
And it's 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Just 10 years seems like a pretty healthy length.
Kevin Knutson, Assistant County Administrator. 10 years is longer than our normal. Part of the reason for that is having to do with the federal funding from the EDA for the site. It has to be used for this purpose for, I think, 20 years. So what we wanted to do was try to make a relationship that would help cover that period of time. The renewals are not at the option of either of us, but both of us have to agree to it.
And we know this vendor. We've had a long history with this vendor, so it's not specific to that. But if year 2, we're not seeing jobs created, we're not seeing entrepreneurs successful, what is our out option?
There are several reasons for termination in it, and it gives us a way to negotiate with them an exit if we need to.
Okay, thank you.
Our whole performance is like the key indicator.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody else? Okay.
Item 24 is issuance, a resolution second amendment to an interlocal agreement this is for industrial revenue bonds. It's $5.1 million. This is part of they're using the bond proceeds in an amount not to exceed $5.1 million to go back into the project. This is for Waste Pro. It's part of a larger amount that they went through the state of Florida for $210 million. Item 25 is Fourth Amendment to Community Development Block Grant and Land Use Restrictions Agreement with Pinellas Ex-Offenders Reentry Coalition. This is an additional $324,000 that is associated with their facility, with construction inflation at their facility. Item 26 is an amendment with 5 nonprofits. As part of this year's budget, you included a 5% cost increase for the nonprofits, and this incorporates those into 5 of them. Item 27 is a Fifth Amendment to the contract with HR Engineering for the San Martin Bridge redevelopment project. So $6 million over, but this is an evacuation bridge, and it has DOT program funding in it.
Question?
Yes, Commissioner Justice.
What's the, so we were adding another 2 years, looks like?
Correct. 670 days. Mm-hmm.
Is that going to make the cost go up again?
Now, this is actually, this has been bid, correct? So these are the fine, this design, so it could.
I just, it was,
I heard her say reevaluate.
right, this is just the beginning design costs.
Correct.
No, I was just, I'm glad the date was on there because I was remembering, I thought this was one of the first things I looked at when I got elected a while back, and we're at December of 2014. I was just curious of the projected timeline of when dirt would actually maybe turned on this.
Good question. Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Jill Silverboard, Deputy County Administrator. With the design phase being approximately 2 years, we're going to try to accomplish permitting, obviously, as soon as that work reaches the point to do that. So my guess is you're looking at probably 3 years before we start construction, assuming we have enough money.
Question, real quick, Joe, while you're there. When the topic of bridges comes up, I'm thinking about my favorite 2 bridges up in North County that one is finished and one has been terribly delayed because somehow we missed the boat on the additional work that needed to be permitted for some sewer work. It's supposed to be, that part of it is supposed to be finished this week. Do we know if it's finishing this week? And are we getting conversation distributed to the residents there about the new estimated completion time? This has been.
I'll answer the second question first. Is with the communication with those residents, yes. And we've been out in the field both last week as well as this week with an opportunity to speak to them. You were out, I believe. As well.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I do not know this week if we're still on schedule. I'll find that out. I'd have to get that from Kelly.
Yeah. I mean, obviously commitments to doing bridges are critically important. I don't.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But, you know, we've got to do a better job of managing the process, managing communication process with our residents. And you know, we talked specifically about a couple of them. I won't get into that today, but again, I think it's lessons learned, if you will. So, because these things are terribly disruptive to a community.
Commissioner, we did meet on staff to talk about that communication piece, so that's what, you know, Jill's referring to. So from a communication standpoint, communicating with our residents, keeping project pages updated as changes occur, those things are in process. We're gonna improve those. In terms of the construction management process, we have to evaluate each one. Part of that, obviously, on this one was on that one was water line. Part of it was core, but you know, there's some ownership pieces on both parts to that.
Yeah, and again, I can't encourage enough about sometimes it's being out there, right? And it's not just updating a website.
No.
And I blame myself for not being out there enough either, just to talk to residents about the issues that they're having. All of us need to do a better job of that. So, and it sometimes means another community meeting to update people on dramatic changes. I'm not talking about the, the normal little changes, but the dramatic changes that we find and how that, they're supposed to be being finished now with the entire project. And we're talking about sometime in the summer now, so.
Hopefully early summer. And Commissioner, just would share also with you that we're working on our relationships when we award these contracts with the contractors on utility locates so that we're not surprised, hopefully. I mean, it's not 100%, it'll never be 100%, but trying to do a better job before we start the construction on utility locates and those issues. I know you're aware of this, but, you know, as Barry said, part of our delay, yes, it related to our own utilities, but there was 90 days that was on Duke. You know, and sometimes these things happen, and your point's well made. We want to make sure we're communicating those to our residents.
Thank you.
Item 28 is an agreement to receive E911 trust fund money from the state. Item 29 is a resolution authorizing the county administrator to execute agreements. These are for our use of certified funds from the state of Florida for our Medicaid public transportation program. The problem here is the reason we're asking for this delegation is that it's a quick turnaround. So when we get those in, we have to turn it around quickly. And so I'll put it on my delegated list as I have to execute these, but we can't wait for necessarily, depending upon the timing, the next commission meeting because they want them back immediately. Item 30 is Resilient Florida Grant. This is for our manufactured homes communities. This is the $25 million we've talked about. Item 31 is multifamily housing revenue bonds. This is for Bear Creek Commons, and this is for 18 units at 30% area median income, 48 units at 60%, and 19 units at 80%. This is in the city of St. Petersburg. Item 32, same thing, and this is for Oakhurst Terrace, this multifamily residential rental housing unit.
Question?
Yes, Commissioner.
Back on 31, and it wasn't in the bullets, but I didn't look in the backup. This was age restricted, was it not? Okay, thank you. 55? 55 and over.
Okay.
On item number 33, this is a request to file suit against the Florida PACE Funding Agency. This is a case where we are proposing to file suit based upon a ruling that this agency got in a bond validation proceeding that had absolutely nothing to do with Pinellas County. However, in our opinion, they convinced the judge to go well beyond the issues contained in that suit and got a finding that that agency could operate anywhere in the state of Florida, including Pinellas County, without abiding by your PACE ordinance. So we are proposing to file suit to ensure, to hopefully get a court order, that they are required to abide by your ordinance that is duly adopted here in Pinellas County. You've had some discussion lately about potentially making some changes to your ordinance. This would not affect your ability to do that in any manner. Really, our primary concern here is making sure, again, that the ordinance currently on the books would be enforced. And the real concern there being that you all have expressed from a policy perspective that you do not wish these loans to go forward in regard to residential properties. So we are proposing to file suit. Again, this is a consumer protection ordinance that you all adopted pursuant to your charter authority. Under item 34, this is a request to file suit. This is a case where the county suffered some property damage as a result of an automobile crash with private citizens involved. Under item number 35, this is a request to file suit in a code enforcement action where compliance has not been gained. The issues at the property include things such as minimum housing, inoperable vehicles, and an accumulation of trash. Under item number 36, I have sent around, I think all of you have had an opportunity to look at the confidential memo related to a settlement proposal. And at this time, I don't anticipate any reports.
I will have a county administrator's report. Obviously, county commission new business. On to public hearings. Item 40 is a change in land use from recreation open space to transportation utilities, 0.116 acres. This is a project within the East Lake Tarpon overlay. And this is a telecommunications tower that's asking for an adjustment in the height. Item 41 is a request for a zoning change, neighborhood commercial to general commercial. Local planning, and this is for auto sales, subject to the Otero Road, mortar by mix. I'm trying to remember back. I go through these, but then I forget. So the local planning agency recommended approval, but it was a 4-2 vote, and the dissenting votes based upon negative impacts to the neighborhoods. There was no direct concern with the auto sales. Item 42 is a zoning change, residential agriculture to employment, unincorporated Clearwater. This is a zoning change for proposed use as warehousing. It was a unanimous vote, and what this would do is eliminate a non-conforming use, and that's current. And that's it. I do have one other question. I know another commissioner has an issue. So we have our federal delegation meeting coming up, and so far our responses has been one, except for staff. And so we wanted to ask you if you wanted to continue to have a meeting with one representative, or we could just invite them to a work session, and just talk about our issues or something less formally than we do with a federal delegation meeting. But right now, we've only had one positive response.
I thought they had all responded, Brian.
Brian, come on up. Well, they all responded, but most of it's staff.
No.
Most of
not
it's
people
staff
who
that's
can do
going to be
anything.
attending.
Yeah.
Well, they've responded, but it's staff that would be attending, not the congressperson.
Just for clarification, typically our two senators, we get staff from their offices each year, but we do try to have both of our representatives at those meetings. We sent out invitations, and both members, Rep. Luna and Rep. Castor, both confirmed they'd be there. However, something's unforeseen has come up with Rep. Luna, and she won't be able to attend on April 6th. So she sent her regards.
So that's the question is, how do we want to handle it?
Yeah, we can either cancel the April 6th meeting, reschedule, we can go forward with that meeting, or we could simply invite Rep. Castor to attend the April 6th work session that's already scheduled that day. We could just have more of an informal discussion.
What we did is we had the federal delegation meeting in the morning, and that moved our work session to the afternoon, so we could move our work session back to the morning and just invite Rep. Castor to that. It's at your pleasure. Let this just come up.
Let's do that, if that meets with everyone's approval.
Sounds good.
Very good.
Either way.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Does anyone have any new business? We skipped over new business. Okay, all right, well, let's go. Commissioner Lathell, you have anything?
Commissioner Peters.
Yeah, well, we all do it, apparently. Commissioner Eggers, nothing? Commissioner Peters?
I just wanted, I brought that up on the policy for affordable housing. Is that something everyone agrees on and you guys will do?
Microphone.
Please, they're gonna get you like they got.
Thank you. Yeah, the water savings for affordable housing, I know I brought it up, we didn't do consensus. Is that something we would agree to put in as a policy?
Say that again?
I think I heard, I saw everybody nodding their head. I would
Okay.
ask that we be able to look at it. I think it's a great idea. I'd like a chance to look at it legally and
Okay.
stuff, and bring it
Thank
back to you.
Yeah, and what we'd found out and through Tampa Bay Water is that where we were having some success was in new developments, because it was a cost savings to the developer. So it wasn't really an issue. It was more about, trying to get folks like all of us to go down to Home Depot and switch out our, that's where the catch-up is. But the new development seemed to be going pretty well, but whatever.
We'll look at it.
Yep.
Charlie?
I've got a couple things, Madam Chair. One, a while back, we had talked, I think, and it reminded me when we had the Tourist Development Tax Fund, we had asked for staff to look at what the policy initiative would be necessary for us to waive bed tax during declarations of emergency. And I just wanted to check and see if we had followed up on that at all, or if we're still in process of looking at that.
We've looked at that a couple of times over the years, and it's almost impossible to calculate and track. We've had trouble with even how to implement something like that.
Well, I thought at the last conversation there was concern about doing it specifically for residents versus non-residents, but if it was a time period that was not the challenge. Anyway, can we take a fresh look at it then for waiving the bed tax during states of emergency? We have a lot of folks that we asked that live on the beaches or live in low-lying areas to move just a little bit inland and for them to pay that tax. We've had this conversation before, so if we could look at what the mechanics of that would be, we could talk about the financial impact of it, and then make a policy decision.
Okay.
And then the second issue is we've been receiving emails. We had this conversation last year when we did pet sales at pet stores. We talked a lot about rabbits. We talked about bringing it back. We have had numerous emails. We had a public speaker at the last county commission meeting. I would like us to make a decision instead of just kind of let it hanging out there. I'm fine with a ban or a modification of regulation, but I wanted to see where everybody was at.
Commissioner Latvala?
Well, I would be a no, because I think if we ban rabbits, then cats will be next. When we ban cats, then insert pet, whatever, the next animal would be on the list. I think that, there will always be the next animal or the next pet that those folks want to ban until there are no pet stores left.
Well, I agree with that, because keep in mind, for those of you that were here, we also had a huge issue a few years ago about geese or goose, or however you say that.
More than one geese.
Gooses.
Yeah.
More than
up in
one,
North County.
many geese, one
You remember
goose.
that, David? Were you here? Oh, my Lord, it was unbelievable, and it was up in North County. And we have had also discussions on the 5th floor about banning pigs, banning hens, the list goes on. So, yeah, Commissioner Peters?
And we just recently did not ban the cats and dogs, and that was
That's
just
right.
recently, so,
Well, there are no cat sales in.
well, okay, so it was dogs. But since we weren't willing to ban dog sales at stores, I don't think we go down that road. I'm in concurrence with my other colleagues that have already spoken.
David?
Yeah, seems like there are plenty of outlets to get rabbits. I don't really have I just know so little about the rabbit. I'm learning from the rabbit people about the issues in dealing with it. So I'm open to having the discussion and maybe getting a little bit more input. We do allow retail sales to 5 establishments, if I'm not mistaken, right? Still
correct.
5 established, no more pet stores. And so, I think we have no limits to what, animal-wise, right? They can sell dogs, cats. I mean, you say they don't do cats, but, and rabbits now, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of in between on that one. I don't think just because you do rabbits, you're gonna next do cats and dogs or whatever, but, so I don't have an issue with discussing it.
Madam Chair, I've had a brief conversation with Barry, and it appears to me, based on the emails that we're getting, it's not necessarily the pet stores, it's people who are buying the rabbits who don't truly understand what it takes to care for the rabbits. They are cute and cuddly, but then when they get larger or accidentally, scratch the child or become aggressive because they're not being handled properly, then they just let them go. They just take them somewhere and let them go. And then, of course, rabbits meet rabbits and they populate. So I know when we first had this conversation, there was some dialogue about just an educational piece, about if you buy a rabbit, this is what it is. But I don't think it's the pet stores out of control. I think it's the people who are purchasing them that don't truly understand the care it takes for the rabbit. I don't mind having a conversation about it. We all get those emails, several emails about them. But I don't think that banning the sale of them is what's going to stop the issue that we're having here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Commissioner Flowers, also with Commissioner Latvala. I mean, I've lived in Pinellas County for 40 years, and I didn't know there was a rabbit problem until a month ago. The commission dealt with, not rabbits specifically, but pet stores, I don't know, a year and a half ago, and I thought y'all, found a good compromise there. So I think it's fine as it is. I wouldn't propose changing it. And I've also talked to Animal Services and also the SPCA to see if that put any pressure onto them, and it does not. And the SPCA's position was they would prefer that we didn't ban it, because then you're just going to kind of drive it underground. As people want rabbits, they're going to find ways to get them. At least with the pet stores, there's some level of accountability there.
And I do, thank you, Commissioner Scott, and I do want to point out that, nature's kind of a funny little thing. Several years ago, we had hundreds, it was one year, hundreds and hundreds of little bunny rabbits. I mean, you couldn't go outside to walk your dog without there being dozens of them out there, and they were such a pain in the neck because they ate all the little, if you had just replanted something, they'd come along and eat all the leaves and stuff like that. But there was also a problem we have in Pinellas County with coyotes. And so after that particular rampage of rabbits that we had in our neighborhood, all of a sudden they just kind of sort of disappeared because, the coyotes are there too, and they like rabbits. Just pointing that out.
Wow. So Commissioners, I want to get a direction. Do I put this
Madam
on or
Chair,
not?
Yes.
So I heard 5 no interest in doing anything, and a couple maybe having a conversation, or 4 no, not interested in doing anything, and a couple having the conversation. So I just want to be able to responsibly respond to all the emails we're getting, and now I have a consensus that you don't want to move forward, and that's certainly fine, but I want to be able to respond appropriately to the emails I get.
Got it.
Thank you very much.
Duly noted.
All right.
Yes,
Just one
Commissioner.
last comment, and I kind of agree. But I don't think it hurts us, and I think to Commissioner Flowers' comment, to have our staff look at, maybe there is if you own a rabbit, what to expect, and maybe start asking, or just to educate the buyers out there, that's all. Because it is not like buying a dog, and it's not like buying a cat. It's very unique and problematic, and it doesn't hurt to just say, hey, check your emotions at the door, and this cute little thing is going to create a lot of problems. So I don't think it hurts to have that.
Commissioner Peter.
I have a follow-up, and I've had many rabbits over my life, many. My children all wanted rabbits. I've had lots of rabbits. Dogs are a lot harder to take care of than rabbits. I think cats are even about the same as taking care of a rabbit. So the fact that we got calls from out of state, we had New York calls, we had Missouri calls.
Everywhere.
So I don't know that that's a Pinellas County problem. And I don't even know that we have to spend resources on it. When you're getting calls from other states about rabbits and problems with rabbits, I don't even know, like Brian said, I haven't heard any kind of problems with rabbits. I mean, that's just not something I've heard about, seen, or anything. But the fact that we are getting phone calls from other states tells me that this is a national advocacy group, and it probably isn't even associated, or that big of a problem in Pinellas County. If you guys want to put something on, on some kind of social media about rabbits, that's fine. But I don't think we should put a whole lot of energy until we really find out from animal control or somebody else that there's a real problem with rabbits. And that's just my thought. Not when we're getting advocates from across the country. It's just silly.
And Madam Chair, we have seen surrounding counties enact these type of ordinances. We are getting the court requests, so that's why I wanted to bring it forward.
Duly noted.
And one county just reversed their ban on cats and dogs. So they've put them in and now they're taking them away. So they're taking it back. So.
Okay, all right. I just have a few things for your information only, so you'll be in the loop. Keep in mind that we do have, this is for you, Jewel, the County Oversight Committee coming up in in July or early August, right? We haven't scheduled it yet, but we need to work on that. Or maybe June, I don't know, whatever. And that's for everyone is part of that committee, so stay tuned. And I am going to be going to London with Tampa Global, the Tampa Global Group, representing the county and the region. And there are some really nice sessions that we're going to be involved in there about working in regional ways. So I'm excited about that. Forward Pinellas had an interesting meeting this last couple weeks ago where we approved the Complete Streets funding recommendations, so you'll be hearing more about that. They also approved our Pinellas County appropriations plan about who sits on the board and how many seats we can have. And the board appointed Counselor Chris Burke from the city of Seminole as the auditor of the selection committee chair. And FDOT made a presentation on the Gandy project development and the environmental studies. That might be something, Barry, that we might want him to come and just give that overview here. It was pretty interesting. And a lot of us travel up and down and over Gandy, so. And just want to remind you that the Advantage Pinellas Housing Action Plan Summit is going to be held on April 28th, and you all heard today that it's at the Largo Cultural Center. There are a few other developments percolating with the Tourist Development Council, which I'll fill you in on as we get closer. And I also wanted to make you aware that there's a lot of conversation going on as it relates to Clearwater and the waterborne transportation efforts within our county and region. And the city is the one that's going to have to apply for funding for that. But Whit Blanton was hoping that we could somehow come up with a 5-year commitment so that federal funds can be applied, because there are a lot of funds there to help support the ferry, but we have to get in the stream of funding in order for them to be able to consider us. The city of Clearwater they were very vocal about wanting more density in their downtown, but they need to have a plan for transportation with the increases in traffic, and the Clearwater Ferry could potentially be a part of that. And I'm not sure, Commissioner Flowers, if you want to speak to PSTA and the new board members and our board and how there's a lot of work at FDOT and PSTA that took 7 years to bring to fruition, and getting the new members on the boards up to date and recognizing the, how do you put that? The different pots of dollars that are available for funding to help with our efforts here in Pinellas County, and how long it takes to go through each phase. That's really critical, because when you start working on these very big projects, there's a huge time constraint involved, and along with that goes the relationship building that it takes a long time to build. So I'm hoping that you'll find a way to bring yourselves up to speed and figure out how we can help help forward Pinellas with our local government commitments. That's all I have to say on that until Tuesday, and I will elaborate further. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask if you all could just indulge me for a moment because this is about a career source of Pinellas. I did invite Stephen Meyer here today because there is I think, a critical point that we need to address and determine what we will do as a board. So there was a normal meeting of Career Source, and Adrian Johnston from Career Source Florida did attend the meeting to hear the concerns from our board related to the merging of Hillsborough and Pinellas. So the liquidation of Career Source Pinellas and Tampa Bay and the potential subsequent consolidation into a new entity could hinder a lawsuit that we currently have against our insurance carrier, Chubb. Chubb may ask for the lawsuit to be thrown out since the parties to the lawsuit would no longer exist. Career Source is looking to recoup over $1 million, and Career Source Tampa Bay is looking to recoup over $2.4 million. In addition, when you look at the status for performance, Pinellas County has outperformed Career Source Tampa Bay over the past 3 years in all of our metric indicators, and I can forward to each of you those metric indicators. Tampa Bay, and I'm not going to use the word fail, but I'm going to say they were challenged in 4 of the same indicator areas from 2020 up until 2022. Part of the reason for a board to be merged or absolved is, or decertified, is if that board fails to meet local performance or they have fiscal accountability issues. We have had none of those here in Pinellas County. If you go through that, or if you have any of those issues, then you are to receive technical assistance, and then for the 3rd consecutive year, potential corrective actions. We've not had any of that. Our placement to funding ratio is greater. In other words, the people that we're placing in jobs that stay over 180 days outperform Hillsborough County as well. Our efficiency ratio outperforms Hillsborough County. So comparing the two, in our opinion, there is no comparison. We've worked really hard in trying to correct all of those things that were of great concern, to include the issues that occurred 5 years ago when they in fact merged the two, and it did not go well. If consolidation goes through and before an entity is formed, some Career Source Tampa Bay employees have already begun announcing, even though nothing has happened, and it is causing a concern with our employees over here. We've had persons through IT from Hillsborough contact IT employees over here, talking about the types of programming and systems. We've had employees from over there contact employees over here, saying that they are excited to have them come on board as staff, and none of that has been decided. But what that does, if you all can imagine, is it causes angst when employees aren't sure about the viability of their employment. Since July 1st of 2022, however, we have had actual employees from Career Source Tampa Bay to come over, and they are now employed with us here in Pinellas County. So June 1st is the actual date by which a decision, if you will, would be handed down and would be final as it relates to the merger. What we have found out, and this is where, Jewel, you'll come in. I was trying to reach you in advance so I could chat with you about this. But based on the language and the interpretation of the language, and we certainly want you to weigh in, is that the governor can redesignate due to non-performance and lack of fiscal accountability. But if that has not been the case, it does not give him the authorization to redesignate. We've not had those issues. And so we would, I want some clarity on that. My ask is, because there's a deadline to submit in the Career Source portal by April 7th, my ask is for consideration, and we can have this at another workshop to discuss more in detail, is if this board would entertain submitting a letter or giving the chair the ability to submit a letter on our behalf that Pinellas County, should the merger go through, Pinellas County remain the lead organization, if you will, for that merger. And I am happy to provide you all with any statistical data that you would like or would want to consider related to where we have been when it comes to the viability of our performance and our outcomes and our measurements, because of course everything is measured as it relates to whether or not you're meeting your goals and objectives versus our partners across the Bay. So that is my ask, that we consider as a board presenting a statement through the Career Source Florida portal, simply asking that Pinellas County be the lead should and if that merger goes through all of its processes.
So Commissioner Flowers, I did hear you say, when you introduced this subject, that you had invited
Yeah.
your executive director. Is there anything you want, do you have questions?
Mr. Meyer, would you like to? I invited him in case there was some additional questions or something that I couldn't
Well,
answer.
that's what I'm asking
Yeah.
him, because
I tried to make it as short as possible because I know everybody likes to kind of be on their way out the door. But, for me, this issue is very important because we've done a superb job.
Okay, let him, will you please identify yourself and your name and address, please?
Good afternoon, Steve Meyer, interim CEO for CareerSource Pinellas. Commissioner Flowers really summarized a lot of the information pretty accurately. The governor does have the authority to redesignate areas, but the power does lie with the chief local elected officials. Unless there is the non-performance or the fiscal malfeasance, then the governor does have the authority. However, that isn't the case in our situation. But again, the chief elected official, with the governor's recommendation, if the chief elected official opposes it and doesn't vote to approve it, the governor cannot move forward. However, if the chief elected official does approve it, that's the end of it, and there's no recourse additionally. So,
Well, I have a question for you. What is wrong with the way it's working now? Why do they feel like they have to merge?
that's the questions that we
Steve
tried
Meyer
to.
did send that
Well, I'm
report to
trying
all
to
of
figure
y'all.
out the same thing with HART and PSTA, because one agency is functioning perfectly well with good reserves and balanced budgets, and the other one can hardly make payroll. I don't get what the benefit is of,
The report that EY presented and was voted on by the CareerSource Florida Board, we feel and our board feels that there was a lot of inaccuracies and omissions from that. They talked about common employers and industries between the two counties. They failed to bring up that we are the third largest manufacturing base in the state. They failed to mention the tourism industry that we have that far outpaces Hillsborough. And again, looking at the performance, as Commissioner Flowers said, we've outperformed them over the last 3 years as well. So we were as shocked as anybody when the announcement was made.
Commissioner Latvala.
I know that merging these local boards came from legislation from a few years ago. But the recommendation to specifically merge Tampa Bay and Pinellas, that came from CareerSource Florida, correct?
It was based upon the Ernst & Young reports and evaluations and focus groups over the last year, and CareerSource Florida did recommend a reduction from 24 down to 21 workforce boards.
But who has recommended, or what entity has recommended merging Pinellas with Tampa Bay?
The CareerSource Florida board.
And they use the Ernst & Young report?
I believe that the REACH office within the governor's office and CareerSource Florida were instrumental in generating that report.
Okay.
Because I don't think in all the focus groups that our stakeholders were in and I've been in, that the facts support what was in the report.
And Commissioner Latvala, I participated in the focus groups, as well as I was asked by Ernst & Young to do a one-on-one interview. That was a very lengthy interview, and I gave them all the time that I had to give. And I would have to concur, when I read the information that was provided back to us, there was a lot that was omitted that from the questions that they asked us, you know, and that we had to provide information to them. And it was just very interesting that the report that I read was not level with the information that was provided when we had the work sessions over in Tampa and then my one-on-one interviews with them.
Can I get a copy of that report?
I believe I emailed it, but I'll email it again.
Yeah, I'll resend it out, because he emailed it to all of us last month, but I'll
Okay.
resend it to all of y'all right now.
A couple of the points that they brought up as a reason for merging the two were commuting patterns. And we pointed out in all of our focus groups that the customers that we serve located in South St. Pete, Lealman, North Greenwood neighborhood, they're not commuting to Hillsborough. You know, roughly, 90% of our customers are St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Largo, Lealman, Pinellas Park. The folks that we serve are not commuting across the bay because they have transportation barriers, they have housing barriers. They just do not. And with the lack of bus service and transportation across, it takes 2 hours from South St. Pete to get to Tampa if they had an opportunity there, and they can't just do that.
Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, so what does a consolidated group look like as far as being accessible and available to our residents who are using our services? So would we have an office in Hillsborough? Would we have an office here? It's like, let's just say we were the entity that ran it. Would we have available resources in each county so that we could take care of our, because really, I'm not as concerned about, I'm always concerned about the staff, and I'm really concerned about our residents and the services that they're getting. So maybe you could speak to that.
I think at the end of the day, all of our career centers, both in Hillsborough and Pinellas, will remain open. The concern that we have is that the focus will shift from potentially Pinellas to Hillsborough. A lot of times when the two counties work together, Hillsborough tries to dominate. Just in the two instances that Commissioner Flowers brought up, an employee texted an employee of mine, "Hey, it's going to be great to have you working on my team," or the IT person in a statewide IT meeting said, "Hillsborough, we manage our IT internally. Pinellas uses a third party. After we're merged, we're going to keep it internal."
Yeah, so it's not the first time that we've seen Hillsborough try to, be a little pushy, but the things that we're talking about, though, I mean, as far as us taking the lead on it, which I think is what Commissioner Flowers was saying, not necessarily whether to do it or not, but that we take the lead on it. So we're not talking about a significant reduction, or are we, in employees? I mean, is there overlap of work?
Frontline staff, I don't anticipate, but the only thing that we've heard coming out of Tallahassee is that there's going to be a consortium of equal representatives from Pinellas and Hillsborough that's going to be the oversight body, and then they will determine who the board is, and then the board will hire who the CEO and the management staff would be. So everything is really undecided right now, but we anticipate that Hillsborough folks are going to try to slant it in terms of Hillsborough because they're larger, they get more funding. And we're just concerned that the most underserved population of Pinellas may lose focus.
I hear you. I'm just not sure I'm not connecting all those dots, but I hear your concern. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
I just sent you guys, I forwarded the email, but you're gonna have to scroll all the way down to the bottom to hit the PDF. It's 125 pages long, the report. So it's just kind of scroll through it to pull out the Pinellas piece.
Did you have something, Brian?
Yes, Madam Chair, I did. Thank you. A couple weeks ago, there was an article in the Tampa Bay Times about a film incentive that was provided, $500,000 for the movie A Taste for Love, that has not been found a distribution outlet yet. I don't know if you all have received any emails or phone calls about that, but I have. And what I've heard is that it's, there's a concern that it's just a shining example of government waste, that we spent $500,000 and have gotten nothing for it. So I would like to ask staff to bring back do a little digging on that and see if we can get a little more background information on that and see if there's anything in that contract, is there any audit provision or any proof of performance or anything that would allow us to do any follow-up or any recourse on that, should it not find a distribution outlet. So,
Barry?
Kevin, I'll ask Kevin just to address it briefly, and then we'll do the deep dive that you're
We
asking.
have a film commission here still, don't we?
We do, and this was a separate contract from our normal process that we use for films. And so I want Kevin to give you a little background information. To your point, we certainly can dig into this and look at if there's recourse. They still believe that it's viable, but we'll take that. But Kevin, go ahead.
Sure, thank you. Kevin Knudsen, Assistant County Administrator. So this was one of two different projects that were done outside of our normal process, where we funded them directly, and in this case, funded 100% of it. You'll also hear of another one that was called Life's Rewards. It was a 2-seasons streaming series that we also funded primarily along with Visit Florida. So that was another project like this. Both of those are different from our normal film production agreements. In this particular case, we funded $500,000, which was 100% of the cost of the film at that time. I understand that they actually did pay more for the film. It could be upwards of $2 million, so our contribution was not 100% necessarily, but at the time we made the decision, it was our understanding that it was 100%. The projected value of that was going to be over $2 million in viewership when it was distributed. It has not been distributed, so we have not realized that. The contract does have an audit provision. We're going to need to dig into it a little bit more about what we can exercise in terms of performance. I've read through it several times myself, and I'm not clear what levers we can push on that, so I want to work with the county attorney's office to make sure that we do a good analysis of that. And it's really good for us to go back and look at this anyway for the very reason that it was different from what we normally do. And we need to evaluate whether that was the right decision for us to make and whether we should ever consider doing that again.
Thank you. All right, anything else for the good of the order?
Was there any desire to maybe have this on the workshop for next month, our next workshop?
Which part?
Resource, whether or not we would.
Well, by then the legislature will be adjourning, won't they?
Will we have until April 7th, I think it is?
So do you want to bring it back, Barry? I mean,
To have for career source?
if you're asking for a letter.
We have until April, what's the
Well,
date?
if you're asking for a letter, I wouldn't put it on a workshop.
We have until April 7th to provide the feedback to the link as to whether or not we
Well,
would
let me
want
get
to.
with Barry and we'll, yeah.
I think if you're going to provide a letter, you need you need to get that out before the workshop, so the
Yeah.
workshop's still on the 6th, so.
I had my date wrong. And just the FYI, Senate Bill 240 was presented, that would walk back the whole realignment process. I don't know where that bill is. Senator Travis Hudson filed it. So if that gets any friction, it walks back the entire process, and there
Well,
would
there
be
you
no
go.
merger. Yeah, but I mean, there's no guarantee
So
it's gonna get.
do we have a consensus from the board that we might want to weigh in a little bit on behalf of our county?
Was about us taking the lead
About
in
Pinellas.
a merged
Yeah.
scenario.
Are we okay?
I'd rather have the lead over Hillsborough if we're going to have to do it. I mean, if we're being told to do it, I'd rather have the lead than somebody
Well,
else.
I mean, it ain't over till it's over, and
Yeah.
Travis Hudson's no pushover.
But I mean, to the point, we don't meet again, right?
You have a meeting on Tuesday.
I mean, that's,
You're-
Yeah.
That's your last
But the
meeting where
last
you
day
could
to
opine on
submit
this.
for public comment would be April 7th, so.
So we could decide that on
On
Tuesday.
Bring it up on Tuesday.
But if you're
And
writing,
that'll give you a chance to review the
Yeah.
document I sent you.
What
if you're
else?
writing a letter, if you don't support the merger, wouldn't you write in the letter you don't support the merger?
No, it's supporting that Pinellas be the
No,
lead.
I
Oh,
got
I'm
that,
sorry.
but if you're going to write a letter, you should write a letter. I mean, you're just being passive about, you don't support the merger, I'm assuming. Out of the conversation, I'm assuming you don't support the merger. So I don't know why you wouldn't write a letter saying you don't support the merger. Now it's like, I don't support the merger, but if you're going to merge it, we want control. If you
Well,
want to
the
write
board-
that
the-
letter, but I don't.
Career Source Florida has already voted. They only had one dissent that voted not to. But they've already voted to merge.
Oh, they have
certain-
voted to merge.
Yeah, Career Source voted to merge certain, it's in the document that I sent you guys. So they already voted to merge certain Career Source Florida
Well,
boards, and ours was one of them.
I got that.
So now that they voted to say this is what we're gonna do, the only thing now that we are asking is, if you're going to do that, since you've done that, we would like to be the lead, not Hillsborough.
But don't you find it strange that nobody asked us what our opinion was, since our county?
Listen, I'm trying to work through
I'm
the
just
process that's
asking.
been presented.
Well, and you might want to give us an opportunity to get with the Career Source folks,
Yeah.
because if I heard correctly, the chief elected officer has to weigh in on this as well, and that is you all.
That is us. That's
Yeah.
why I brought it here.
So
So
we may want to.
I asked Steve to get us a letter to kind of outline this, and then I'll send it
That's
to
a
you.
great idea.
I'll send it to you, and then we can discuss it on Tuesday.
Sounds like a good idea. Can you get that done by Tuesday? Good job.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so I think we're in a good position now to adjourn if there's nothing else, and I'll see you all back on Tuesday. Kathleen?
Thank you.
Have everybody
I
stay.
get what you're saying, but.